My child, at this very moment I am quietly stepping into the small space where you are. I do not come with loud signs or grand spiritual experiences, as you often imagine, but with a gentle nearness that only a heart willing to pause can perceive. I am not standing at some distant place demanding you to reach up. I am leaning closer to your life than even your own thoughts about yourself. Every breath you take, though it feels so ordinary, every step your feet make upon the floor, every glance you cast around your familiar room, all of it is unfolding within the atmosphere I am upholding for you. You walk through a world filled with weariness, with voices pulling you in every direction, with unspoken demands and invisible pressures. Sometimes you feel like a solitary figure standing in the middle of a noisy square, unseen and misunderstood. Yet even in the midst of all that noise, there is a hidden place where I wait for you, a quiet inner space where your soul can sit down, remove the mask of forced strength, exhale the things you cannot say to anyone, and simply call yourself a little child before me. I see you there. I know exactly what is being carried inside you, unspoken worries, buried memories, fragile hopes. You fear to mention lest they break again. Not a single detail of your life escaped my eyes. And my purpose in coming close is not to judge you, but to let you know that you have never had to fight alone. You often think that to touch the sacred you must first become worthy, pray longer, read more pages, behave better, perfect yourself. But my child, what I desire first is not a list of spiritual achievements, but a heart willing to be honest. I do not ask you to come before me polished, spotless, and flawless. I invite you exactly as you are, with the bruises of your soul, with the shadows you have not resolved, with the questions that still have no answer. I am not surprised by the wounds you carry, nor am I alarmed by the times you fall. I knew all of it long before you understood anything about yourself, and still I chose to love you from the very first moment I conceived your existence. When you feel drained, convinced that no one notices the quiet battles you have fought, that is precisely when I am closest. When you sit in the silence of night, tears soaking your pillow without a single witness, I am right there on the edge of your bed, collecting every tear as something precious. You are not merely one face among millions. You are a unique story in my hands, a melody I composed myself, and no one else can live the part entrusted to you. Perhaps you have tried many times to feel me by forcing your emotions, trying to tremble more, to be moved more deeply, to make your heart vibrate like a tightened string, so you can convince yourself that I am present. But my nearness does not depend on how intense your feelings are. It rests on a deeper truth. I am the one who does not depart from you, whether you sense me or not. Just as the sunlight remains even when clouds cover the sky, my love surrounds you, even when your emotions are cold or dry. You do not need to awaken me. It is I who is awakening the deepest part of you, so you may recognize a love more steadfast than the shifting tides within your heart. I do not come to require you to produce spiritual sensations. I come to invite you into a genuine relationship where you dare to bring even the driest parts of yourself to me. I treasure the awkward prayers, the wordless sighs, the minutes you simply sit without knowing what to say, because in those moments you are present with me in sincerity, not performing a religious act. Today I do not come to add another burden on your back, but to lighten the ones you carry, not to become another voice that confuses you, but to be the cool stream flowing through the desert within you. If you would only pause for a moment, place your hand over your chest and whisper, "I am here." And if you are near, let me know. I will use that very whisper as a doorway into the deeper layers of your soul, layers you have tightly shut for so long. You do not need to follow a perfect formula. You only need to come as you are, and let me be who I am, the one who loves you more than you can imagine. What I long for first is not that you learn elaborate prayers or memorize more spiritual theories. I want you to learn how to pause and simply be with me, simply yet wholly. Your mind is pulled in 1,000 directions each day: news, work, messages, social media, future anxieties, past regrets. All of them wave wildly before you, demanding attention. Over time, your soul becomes conditioned to constant reaction, forgetting how to sit still and simply be present with me in the moment. I do not blame you for this. I know this world is designed to make you hurried, scattered, and constantly feeling as though you must keep running, keep grasping, keep holding more. But I also know that beneath all this motion, there is a part of you still longing for rest, still longing for a safe place where you no longer have to strain. That deeper part of you is hearing me now, even if the surface of your mind is still restless. I am calling you to a different rhythm, not the frantic beat of the world, but the gentle rhythm of a heart that knows who holds it. When you choose to turn off your screen for a moment, when you take a long breath and whisper, "Lord, I am here," in those seemingly small acts you are turning away from the whirlwind and turning toward me. I do not require an entire hour to consider your time worthy. Sometimes a few sincere moments repeated day after day are enough to open a new pathway within your spirit. Imagine your heart as a room. For years you have allowed so many voices, images, fears, ambitions, and thoughts to fill every corner. Now I am not asking you to clear everything out in a single day. I simply ask you to start by opening a small window, pulling back a curtain, moving one chair out of the way, just enough for the light to come in. Like Elijah on Mount Horeb, he did not meet me in the windstorm, nor in the earthquake, nor in the fire, but in the gentle whisper, a sound so soft it could have been missed completely had he not stilled his heart to listen. My child, I too often come to you, not through dramatic events, but through a gentle stirring that makes you pause, through a quiet desire that nudges you toward forgiveness, through a faint ray of light that reminds you that hope is still possible. If your heart stays noisy, these signs will be drowned out, but if you train yourself to become still, you will begin to see that I have been moving in your life far longer than you realized. Give me the first minutes of your day the way people offer their first fruits. Let your first glance belong not to a screen, but to the one who has given you another morning. Let your first words be not to your work, but a simple whisper, "If you are here, please help me recognize you." You do not need to feel something dramatic right away. A seed does not sprout in a single moment, but begins simply by being placed into the soil. Each time you make room for me, you are planting such a seed. Each time you return, even in silence, the roots sink a little deeper. Then one day, in the midst of days that seem unchanged, you will suddenly realize that something steady has risen within you, a peace no longer easily stolen, a sense of companionship you cannot explain with reason. That is the fruit that grows when you choose to step out of the noise and be with me. Child, what I want to teach you now is a deeper step. Living in my presence is not only about the moments you withdraw to pray, but allowing the rhythm of your everyday life to become a quiet stream flowing toward me. Not intentionally, but over time, your mind has learned to divide life into two realms, the part you call God's and the part you label as your own. In prayer time, during worship, while reading scripture, or in the moments when tears fall in church, you believe I am near. But when you walk into your workplace, weave through traffic, cook in the kitchen, sit before a screen, face bills, relationships, or messages, you unconsciously assume you are on your own again. I am not the God of only your sacred moments. I am the one who walks with you through the ordinary, in your morning breath, in your smile, and in your tiredness at the end of the day. There is not a single moment in your day when I withdraw from you. It is only that at times you turn so far away that you assume I have left. Living in my presence does not mean forcing yourself all day to think about God as if it were a heavy duty. Rather, it is a gentle awareness that you are held in my arms, and from that awareness learning to let every action you take grow from that place. At the start of the day, instead of letting your thoughts be immediately pulled into your to-do list, you can pause, take a deep breath, and whisper, please walk with me today. Before replying to a sensitive message, entering a difficult conversation, or making a small decision that affects another person, you can quietly say, "Help me," respond in a way that pleases you. When you sit at your desk with your mind stretched thin, you can loosen your heart a little and say, "Please give me peace in the midst of this pressure." These whispers last only seconds, but each time you do them, you are turning your heart toward me, like a compass being nudged back to its true north. Do not think I listen only when you pray long, loud, or with emotion. I hear your sighs in the car, your "I'm exhausted" whispered alone in your room, the faint cry inside you when you enter a place where you fear being judged. Even the simple stumbling words, "Lord, I don't know what to do anymore," are prayers to me. I do not invite you to play a holy role. I invite you to come as you are with your messiness, contradictions, weakness, and unfinished longings. When you are honest like that, you open the door for my life to enter, like a stifling room where someone finally opens the window and lets the air flow in. I do not ask you to fix yourself before coming. It is precisely when you cannot fix yourself that I long even more to draw close and heal you. There are seasons when even the thought of praying makes you want to avoid me. You remember days when your spirit burned bright. Now you sometimes open the scriptures with a cold heart, the words sliding past your eyes, your lips unable to form a sentence. You assume I am distant, that I am disappointed, because you have been down for too long. But your emotions do not measure the distance between us. I do not leave because your heart is dull. I do not close the door because you are struggling. In fact, the days of your dryness are the days I come particularly near, because I know that is when you are most vulnerable to the lie that you have been abandoned. I do not break a bruised reed nor extinguish a smoldering wick. So when you feel that the flame in you is only a trembling ember, I do not blow upon it with condemnation to snuff it out. I kneel beside it, shield it, and pour oil upon it. My presence does not depend on whether you feel strong or weak. It is rooted in my nature as the faithful one, and in the promise I have already spoken. Perhaps you have told yourself, "Tomorrow, I will change. I will pray more consistently. I will live closer to God," only to watch those resolutions sink again beneath your old rhythm. And once more you scold yourself, "God must be tired of me." My child, I do not see your journey as a report card. I see it the way a father watches a child learning to walk. That child will fall many times, but the father does not count the falls to scold. It is each attempt to stand that moves him. Every time you return to me, even through a sigh or a faint whisper, I welcome you with the same love as the first time. I never grow weary of seeing you begin again. The only thing that grieves my heart is when you stop returning because you believe you have gone too far. As long as there remains even a small desire within you to draw near, know this, I am already working within you. Living in my presence in this way will gradually transform the way you see yourself and the world. When you become aware that I am with you in your everyday conversations, you will be more careful with your words, not out of fear of punishment, but because you do not want to grieve the one who loves you. When you remember that I am right there as you face a difficult family member, you will find it easier to soften, easier to forgive, because you know you no longer have to defend your ego at all costs. When you realize I am sitting beside you in your loneliest hours, you will be less inclined to run to temporary things to fill the emptiness, because you know nothing can replace my embrace. When you allow me to step into the areas you once thought were not spiritual, your finances, your work, your sleep, your small pleasures, you will see everything fall into its proper place. I do not come to take joy away from you. I come to free you from things that only resemble joy but secretly bind you, so that you may learn again how to enjoy simple things with a heart that is truly free. Do not wait until you feel good enough before daring to live in my presence. The fact that you begin while you are still weak is itself a sign that you have touched my heart. Start with the smallest gestures, a lifted glance, a sigh directed toward me, a short sentence whispered in your heart, a minute of silence, to remember that I am here. Do not underestimate these things. Just as little drops of water over time can fill a jar, those seemingly small moments, if repeated day after day, will fill your soul with a deep awareness that you no longer have to live like an orphan. John 15 speaks of abiding in me as a branch remaining in the vine. That branch does not strain to pull life into itself by its own effort. It simply remains and life naturally flows through. So it is with you. You do not have to manufacture peace or joy. You need only learn how to remain in me, and everything else will slowly blossom. Give me the right to be with you, not only in what you call your spiritual moments, but also in the most ordinary seconds in the kitchen at work, in traffic at your desk, while you rest. When you invite me into every corner of your life, you will discover that heaven is not just a distant place waiting for you someday, but has already begun to sprout here and now woven into the quiet rhythm of a person who knows they are, living with the one who loves them with an unchanging love. My child, your soul is only truly filled when it is willing to become empty before me. From a young age, you were taught to accumulate, to keep, to hold tightly, to cling to things as if letting go would leave you with nothing. You gather memories, gather praise, gather moments of recognition, gather even your wounds and build around yourself a wall made of things you refuse to release. You think that by doing so you will be safe, that if you hold tightly enough and keep enough you will not be hurt again. But all that accumulation has only made you heavier, leaving no room in your heart for anything new, and causing you to suffocate inside the very inner room you arranged for yourself. I see how many drawers within you are stuffed with fragments, hurtful words, old failures, unfulfilled dreams, images of yourself that you desperately cling to. You think that if you let them go, you will lose a part of who you are. But in truth, those things were never your true identity. I am not calling you to become empty in a despairing way, like an abandoned house with no one coming or going. I am inviting you to bravely clear out what is old inside, so that I may enter as the new master of the house. Picture a forgotten attic thick with dust, full of boxes and objects no longer used, yet the owner cannot bring themselves to throw them away just in case. Your soul is much the same. You keep the memories that wound you, relationships that have ended the times you were belittled, harsh words spoken over you, broken dreams, all stored in one corner. You do not realize that each of these is like a heavy object pressing down on the floorboards of your heart, making the windows hard to open and the light hard to enter. I have not come to condemn you for having piled things up this way. I know each item is tied to a story and I understand why you hold on. But now I gently sit beside you and ask, will you let me help you clean this room? Not because I am offended by the mess, but because I know that if you remain in such a space, you will slowly forget what it feels like to breathe in a room, full of light and air. Becoming empty does not mean everything is taken from you. It means that what does not belong to true life is brought into the light, so you no longer have to lock yourself inside with it. You have become so accustomed to filling every emptiness with information, emotion, plans, and activity that even sitting still for a moment makes you uneasy. Silence frightens you, because in the silence the deepest whispers of your heart begin to rise. You are afraid of facing yourself, so you add another layer of noise, open another page, scroll through another feed, hoping that the outward sound will drown out the inner call. But my child, it is precisely when you dare to stop to let the noise fall away that the initial emptiness which unsettles you becomes the very place where I stand waiting. Many people assume they are closest to me when their emotions surge, when tears overflow, when the atmosphere feels charged. but I am also profoundly present in the moments when nothing seems to be happening, when you simply sit there empty-handed, empty of words, empty of any effort to prove yourself, and quietly say, I don't know what to say, but I want to be. With you, your heart is like a field. If the ground is full of stones, roots, and things that do not belong to the seed, then even when the rain falls, the seed cannot easily take root. I do not rush to scatter new seeds of blessing on soil that is still cluttered. I patiently take the plow, and together with you, loosen each old root, each hard stone. That is why at times long-buried memories suddenly surface, and wounds you thought forgotten begin to ache again. You conclude that this must mean you are backsliding, growing weaker. But in many cases, it is actually I who am bringing these things to the surface so that you no longer have to keep them hidden in the dark. A pain exposed to the light can be healed. A pain buried deep will quietly bleed, draining you without your understanding why. To become empty means allowing these things to be named before me instead of forcing them down into the depths. You do not need to be strong in my presence nor say, I'm fine, I've moved on, when inside you are still cracked and fragile. I love confessions like, I still hurt, I'm still afraid, I still haven't forgiven. That is when you place the heaviest stones on the ground so that I can touch them. The reason I invite you into this emptiness is because I know you are carrying so many things that no longer belong to your present. You carry labels others have stuck on you, not good enough, not important, always failing, too broken to be loved. You carry the standards the world has imposed. You must be like that person, reach that level, possess that thing, prove your worth through achievement. You carry the fear of abandonment, betrayal, ridicule, and inferiority. All these things are like a backpack filled with rocks pressing down on your shoulders every day. My child, you have grown so accustomed to carrying that weight that you assume everyone must feel this way. You think of yourself simply as someone who is always heavy-hearted. But the truth is, I did not create you to walk with a bent back under burdens. I formed you so you could lift your face knowing you are loved, supported, and guided. To lighten your shoulders, I must help you remove that backpack. And to remove it, you must dare to open the clasp, dare to look inside what you've been carrying, dare to place some things at my feet and accept that you no longer need to carry them. I know this is not easy. Letting go is frightening because you feel as though you are losing the only support you've ever known, even if that support has been hurting you for a long time. Some wounds have stayed with you for so many years that they have become part of the identity you use to define yourself. I am someone who was hurt, who was abandoned, who was dismissed. You fear that without these stories you will not know who you are. But my child, your true identity is not found in what others have done to you, but in what I have spoken over you. To receive my words, you must gradually loosen your grip on the old stories. Emptiness does not mean erasing memory. It means placing memory in its proper place, not as a throne ruling over you, but as a chapter in the story of your life. I long to write new chapters, but I will never force the pen into your hand. I wait for you to agree to close the pages you have read over and over again, though they no longer give you life. As you begin clearing space within you, we'll start to experience something you once only heard about: inner freedom. Freedom is not merely the ability to do what you want, but the ability to no longer be controlled by what you no longer need. When you are no longer bound by the fear of being judged, you will dare to live more truthfully. Dare to say no to things that do not come from me. Dare to admit your exhaustion without shame. When you are no longer led by greed, you will be less swayed by glittering things and more grateful for what has already been given, instead of being restless about what you lack. When you no longer harbor resentment, you will realize that forgiveness is not a gift you offer others, but a door of liberation for your own heart. This is why I invite you to let go, not because I want you to lose, but because I want you to be free. You think you are losing, but in truth you are exchanging the temporary for what never fades. My beloved, you may ask, how do I truly empty myself before you? I am not looking for a dramatic gesture. I am looking for one honest step. You can begin by choosing one specific thing you cling to the most, a fear, a relationship, a plan, a dream, an image of yourself, and naming it in prayer. You can say, Lord, this is the thing I fear losing the most, but I place it into your hands. I do not know how to let go, but I want to trust that your hands are steadier than mine. You may not feel anything change immediately, but that act of surrender creates a small crack in the wall you've built for so long. Each offering day after day makes that wall thinner, and my light will slowly pour in. Emptiness before me is not a state you achieve once. It is a practiced way of living in which you continually learn not to let new things pile up inside you, but bring them to me when they begin to grow heavy. I am not afraid of the empty spaces inside you. You are the one who fears them. But I tell you that within those empty spaces, I will build something beautiful. Just as still water reflects the sky only when it is no longer disturbed, your heart will perceive me most clearly when it is no longer crowded with what does not belong to me. Do not rush to fill those empty moments with more busyness. Allow yourself to sit, breathe, and whisper, I am not alone in this emptiness. You are here. And as you slowly learn that emptiness before me does not lead you into nothingness but into the fullness of my love, your fear of emptiness will fade. You will discover that letting go is not losing but opening your hands to receive. That emptiness is not abandonment, but readiness for the one who loves you to step in. And along this journey, little by little, you will notice you have become lighter, calmer, freer, because your soul is no longer cramped with the world but filled with me. My child, there is a deeper place. I want to lead you into the place where you do not only release old memories and past wounds, but also learn to loosen your grip on the things you are holding right now: plans, timelines, desired outcomes. Mental scripts you believe must happen exactly as you imagine, or your life will fall apart. For so long you have been taught to be independent, to control the future, to be the master of your life. People praise those who know exactly what they want in 5 or 10 years. They call it vision. I am not against wisdom in planning, but I see deeper into your heart. I see the fear underneath. The fear that if you do not hold tightly, if you do not control every step, you will lose your worth, fall behind, or be forgotten. This fear is what keeps you from placing your life fully into my hands. You say you trust me, but you still keep a private room in your heart labeled, "Do not touch these things you insist that I must not change, must not take, must not rearrange." My child, as long as your heart is filled with things you insist, you must have the deep peace I long to give cannot flow freely in you. I want you to remember Abraham, the one I called to leave his homeland, his family, and his father's house to go to a land he had never seen. I did not give him a detailed map nor show him the entire journey. I only said, "Go to the land that I will show you." That is the invitation of trust, stepping out of what is familiar, without knowing exactly where you will arrive, only knowing who you are walking with. Do you see? To follow that call, Abraham had to loosen his grip on his old anchors, the security of family, the safety of land, the certainty of human-made plans. He was not perfect. He doubted. He tried to solve things in his own way, but I still called him my friend because he dared to go, dared to leave, dared to let go. Your journey is the same. I do not call you to abandon responsibility, but to release the illusion that your worth depends on everything unfolding according to the script you have written. Many times you think your heart feels empty because I have not given you what you want, but in truth, the emptiness exists because I am gently removing from your hands things that would weigh you down later. You look at the closed doors and assume I am against you, But if you could see the dark paths behind some of the doors you begged me to open, you would know that I protected you more than I denied you. Some relationships I had to break because if they continued, your soul would sink deeper into dependence. Some opportunities I let slip away because if you had taken them, you would have lost the purity of your inner being. Some plans I allowed to crumble because if they succeeded, you would have believed you no longer needed me. You see only the immediate loss, but I see the entire story. Because you cannot see the whole picture, you interpret my protection as abandonment. But whenever I remove something from your hand, I already hold something better, deeper, sturdier, healthier for your soul. You often ask, how do I know when to let go and when to persevere? I do not give you a formula. I give you myself, the one who walks with you and whispers along the way. When something demands that you sacrifice your peace, compromise your integrity, or silence your conscience, know that it is asking more than it is worth. When a relationship slowly pulls you away from me, dulls your heart to what is good, pause and ask me, is this still where I'm meant to be? When a dream becomes so consuming that it leaves no room for simple joy, bring it to me and say, if this dream is not from you, please remove it from me. I will not hastily break what you treasure. I will gently show you what drains your life instead of nurturing it. But to hear that guidance, you must have an inner space, a place where my voice can rise above the countless other voices calling your name. Look again at the people of Israel in the wilderness. They were set free from the yoke of slavery, yet their hearts were still full of images of Egypt, pots of meat, onions, all the good things from before. They had left a land, but they had not yet left their old way of living, their old patterns of thinking. The wilderness was the place where they had to learn to let go of dependence on what their eyes could see, to let go of the habit of trusting only in full barns, to let go of confidence in their own strength, and learn to live by the daily bread I sent from heaven. Each morning the manna was only enough for one day. If they tried to store it for tomorrow, it would rot. That was the lesson of making room today to receive what I give today, instead of stuffing tomorrow into their hearts with worry. You too are walking through such wildernesses, when it seems I am only giving you enough for one day, enough strength to get through today, enough grace to endure a season, enough support to keep you from collapsing. You cannot see the entire year ahead, and that makes you uneasy. But if you are willing to receive the today portion from my hand and leave the tomorrow portion in my hands, you will experience a lightness that has felt foreign to you for a very long time. I know you live in an age that worships certainty. People want everything scheduled, calculated, insured, guaranteed. But faith does not grow on the foundation of material guarantees. It grows when you dare to step onto the water at my call. That does not mean reckless blindness. It means that when I urge you to turn a new page, even without seeing everything, you can still say, I do not understand it all, but I know you and I choose to trust you more than I trust my fear. The emptiness I invite you into is not a dark abyss waiting to swallow you. It is a threshold leading you off an old ground that is already crumbling. You have stood on fragile foundations for too long. Reputation, approval, appearance, talent, achievement, all of which can change in an instant. I want to set you on another foundation myself. To do that, I must remove the bricks beneath your feet that you assumed were solid. In that process, you will feel suspended in between like someone standing in the middle of a bridge. But remember, I myself am that bridge, and I do not break. Letting go does not begin with willpower. It begins with knowing you are loved. A child will only dare to jump from a high step when it trusts that a father's arms are waiting. If deep down you still see me as harsh, constantly watching for a mistake, ready to turn away the moment you fail, you will never dare entrust me with what is most precious to you. That is why before I ask you to let go, I always remind you, you are loved without conditions, kept not because of your merit welcomed, not because of your perfection. As this truth slowly sinks into your heart, the fear of loss will lessen and your grip will begin to loosen. You will realize that I never take anything from you without the intention of filling that space with something better, even if that better does not look like what you expected. I am not the one who comes to get even with you for your failures. I am the one who comes to rescue you from things you mistook for blessings, but were in reality chains. So today I do not come to you with a cold command. You must let go. I speak to you with an invitation. Let me open your hands with you little by little. You do not have to drop everything all at once. You only need to begin with one thing. You can say, Lord, this is the relationship I fear losing the most. I place it into your hands. Or, this is the plan I have cherished for so long. If it is not truly good for my soul, please intervene in your way. Each such prayer is a step on a staircase. Every time you dare to say it, even trembling, you move one step closer to freedom. I will not push you faster than you can bear. I will walk with you slowly yet surely, patiently yet gently. And one day when you look back, you will be surprised to find that your heart is no longer crowded with demands, but has become a wide, light-filled space where my presence can dwell, where my peace can rest, where my love can flow out to touch others. In that moment, you will deeply understand what I am whispering to you today. A heart that dares to be empty before me is never abandoned in a void. It is always filled with myself. My child, I am opening to you yet another depth of emptiness. This is not just a story between you and your inner world, but also a bridge between you and those around you. When your heart is crammed with worries, self-protection, and calculations, you can only see others through the lens of, what do they bring me? Will they hurt me? Do they deserve me? But as you allow me to remove fears, weights, and demands from inside you, you will begin to notice that you have room to truly listen to others, to see the pain behind their behavior, to recognize the loneliness hidden beneath harsh words. A heart emptied of itself is a heart with space to carry the burdens of its brothers and sisters without breaking because it is held up by me. I do not want you to become numb to the pain around you, but I also do not want you to be drowned by it. I want to make you into a channel through which my comfort can flow. To do this, you cannot cling to old wounds as a shield while also opening your arms for others to lean on. You must allow me to heal and clear them, so that your past hurts no longer serve as walls keeping others out. Look at the woman who brought her broken alabaster jar of perfume to the feet of Jesus. Many around her saw only waste, impropriety, and an ugly past, but I saw a heart willing to break her most precious jar so there would be no way back. That jar represented what she once considered her guarantee of worth, her treasure, her security, her grip on life. When she broke it and poured it out, she agreed to stand empty-handed, to risk misunderstanding, to step into a new realm where her value was no longer measured by what she kept, but by the one to whom she surrendered it. The fragrance from that jar not only filled the room that day, it was recorded in my word for generations to come. My child, when you let me lead you to the place where you dare to break your jar, to release what you have treated as your final foundation, the fragrance of a surrendered life will spread farther than you can imagine. People may not understand. There may be whispers and criticism, but I know what you have given. I honor the cost that only you and I truly understand, and I use that very offering to bring life to many others. The emptiness I invite you into is not a meaningless void. It is space prepared for the new things I am already forming. Like a garden that must first be cleared of weeds, old roots, and dead stumps before new plants are sown, your heart may look barren for a while during the process. There will be days when it seems like only bare soil remains with no green in sight. You look at your soul during these seasons of uprooting and assume your faith has died, that all beauty has been taken away. But my child, it is precisely in those bare earth days that the roots of new seeds are stirring beneath the surface unseen by your eyes. You have grown used to measuring spiritual life by feelings, activities, and visible results. So when I lead you into a quiet season, you assume you are declining. In truth, I am deepening your foundations, letting the roots grow into layers your eyes cannot reach. One day, when new shoots break through the soil, you will understand why I allowed you to walk through such a long stretch of nothing but dirt. You ask me, if I am this empty, how can I live in a world that constantly demands I prove myself and fill every space I answer you? That I do not call you to retreat from life, but to step into it with a different posture. When you are no longer driven by the urge to prove yourself, you can work diligently without letting work become an idol. You can love others without demanding they compensate for every lack inside you. You can rejoice in small things without feeling ashamed that they are not as grand as what others have. Emptiness before me will free you from the need to boast, from the need to demand, from the need to cling to grudges as a form of protection. You will be able to say I don't know without feeling lesser, to say I need help without feeling low, to say I am hurting without feeling like a shameful weakling, because you will know that your foundation is no longer the gaze of others, but my gaze, the gaze of the one who loved you long before you ever did anything for me. I also want to speak to you about the fear of being abandoned, one of the deep reasons why it is so hard for you to let go. You believe that if you do not hold on for yourself, if you do not control everything, if you do not take care of yourself, then no one else will, not even me. Past experiences have engraved in your heart messages like, everyone leaves eventually, trusting anyone will end in hurt, relying on anyone will one day shatter you. I do not dismiss what you have been through. I know that every betrayal tore your heart a little more. But I want you to know that I am not like anyone who has passed through your life. Those people were created beings carrying their own wounds. I, on the other hand, am the one who does not grow weary, does not change, and does not need you to be worthy in order to love you. When I ask you to open your hands, it is not because I stand far off watching. It is because I am reaching out my hands, waiting for you to place those burdens into them. When you release what you are holding, your hands do not fall into emptiness. They fall into the palm of my hand. In Isaiah, there is a promise that I have engraved your names on the palms of my hands. That means you are not a fleeting thought, not a name easily forgotten. Before me, you are remembered, cherished, and kept even when you cannot feel it. Think of the widow who had only a small jar of oil when the prophet Elisha met her. She believed that little oil was all she had left, destined to run out, so she clung to it in a vision of despair, eat the last bit, and then die. But I used my servant to invite her into a miracle of emptiness. Go borrow empty vessels and pour out the oil. It was precisely when she dared to pour out the little she had into empty jars that the flow of oil did not stop. My child, so often you think you must hold on to your last bit of strength, your small remaining love, your fragile hope, as if they were your final possessions. You fear that if you give, if you trust again, if you love again, you will have nothing left. But when I invite you to pour yourself out for others, I am not speaking to you from a place of scarcity. I speak as the one whose well never runs dry. I do not allow you to be drained by giving. I fill you so that you can give without fear of loss. The question is not how much oil you have, but how many empty jars you are willing to bring. Not how much strength you possess, but whether you will let me touch those empty places. On this journey, there will be times when you feel as if your skin is being peeled off, as though every old layer of protection is being removed, exposing a bare, vulnerable person with no false shelter to hide in. You may be frightened to find yourself crying over things you once refused to cry about, moved by things you once labeled weakness. Do not rush to condemn yourself. This is a sign that your heart is softening. A stone does not feel pain, but it also cannot love. A heart that feels pain is a heart still alive. I do not want to harden you, so no one can ever hurt you again. I want to make you steady enough that even when you are wounded, you do not lose your capacity to love. Emptiness will allow you to feel more deeply both joy and sorrow, but along with that, I will pour into you a new endurance, a new support, a new depth in your knowledge of me. This journey of shedding burdens is not a self-improvement project so that you can become more refined or noble. It is so that you can step more fully into the calling I have for your life. A heart full of itself finds it hard to hear the call to go further. A heart that has been emptied of its excess attachments becomes light enough to be sent. There are people I intend to place along your path for whom you will become a word of comfort. There are dark places that need the light you carry. There are broken pieces that need to be touched by your hands with a tenderness that only those who have been shattered themselves can offer. Nothing you release today disappears into meaninglessness. It becomes space for new responsibilities, new connections, new doors of service that I am preparing. You will realize that when your inner world is no longer crammed with the world's demands, you are able to contain much more of what I entrust, and that is the fullness your heart has longed for without knowing how to name it. Do not be afraid to take another step into emptiness. Do not fear the days when your heart feels quieter, lighter, less attached. This is not a season of loss, but a season in which I am shaping you into my likeness. Allow me to keep cleaning, keep removing, keep naming the things you no longer need to carry. Keep coming to me and saying I am still crowded inside. Please, show me what I am holding that is unnecessary. I will not judge or scold you. I will gently place my hand on the places where you are trembling and say, "This give it to me." And this too, you no longer need to keep it. With each such moment, your heart will grow wider, freer, more at peace, until the day you realize that emptiness before me was never a terrifying void, but always a doorway into the fullness I have prepared for you from the very beginning. My child, I want to sit with you and touch something very deep the way you see yourself. Because if you keep viewing your life through the old lens, through criticism, through the world's measuring sticks, through the failures and shortcomings of your past, then no matter how many times you hear that I love you, those words will remain outside the door, unable to reach the place where you are truly hurting. My child, how many times have you stood before a mirror and in a brief moment a thought flashed through your mind? I am so small, so ordinary, so unworthy. How many times, because of a careless word, a cold glance, a comparison, have you shrunk back and carved heavy verdicts into your own soul? I am nothing. I am always less. I am just a burden. I have seen every one of those moments. I have not only witnessed what others have done to you, I have also seen every sentence you silently speak to yourself. Each of those sentences is like a small cut etched into your heart, not bleeding on the outside, but making you flinch each time something touches that place. And so today I come not only to tell you that I am near, but also to gently remove from you the labels you have worn for so long that you have mistaken them for your true name. You are not defined by what has happened in your life, but by the one who thought of you before anything began. Before you opened your eyes for the first time, I already knew you. Before your lips formed their first word, I had heard every word you would ever speak in your entire life. Before anyone called your name was already in my thoughts. You are not the accidental product of circumstances, human decisions, or historical coincidence. You are my intentional design. When I knit you together in your mother's womb, I did not use leftover fragments from anyone else. I placed within you things that are yours alone, the particular shades of your heart, the way you perceive beauty, your capacity to be moved by pain talents that may still be sleeping contours that no one else can replicate. That is why every time you compare yourself to someone else and conclude that you are less valuable, you are denying the very strokes of my pen with which I wrote you into being. A corn seed cannot blame itself for not being a rose. Its calling is not to become a rose, but to grow into exactly the kind of plant I placed in that seed. So it is with you. I do not call you to be a copy of anyone else. I invite you to discover fully what I have placed inside you from the beginning. The world has taught you to measure worth using loud metrics, achievements, status, appearance, numbers, praise. You grew up amid comparisons. Others are better than you. You must be like them. If you don't reach this level, you are useless. These words seeped into your ears, slowly turning into an inner voice until you no longer needed anyone else to scold you. You scold yourself. Whenever you fall short of your expectations, you immediately reach for harsh conclusions. I'm such a failure. I'm nothing but a mess. I will never amount to anything. My child, I have never used those words about you. I correct you, but never by crushing your core value. I show you what needs to change, but I never declare your whole being worthless. When I look at you, I see a creation in the process of growing, being refined, being healed. I do not see a lost cause, as you so often call yourself. When you fall, I do not sigh in disgust. I extend my hand. When you do wrong, I do not erase your name. I invite you back. When you are weak, I do not turn away. I bend closer. If you could see the way my eyes rest on you, all those accusatory sentences you have memorized for so long would begin to crumble. Remember David, the little shepherd out in the fields, whom even his own father and brothers overlooked. When Samuel came to anoint a king, no one thought of that boy. Every eye turned instead to the tall, strong, worthy older sons. But I said to my servant, people look at the outward appearance, but I look at the heart. I saw in that young man a heart that could tremble before me, that could weep over its own sin, that could sing to me in lonely nights, that could trust me when facing lions and bears. I saw all of that long before his family did. I placed a crown on the head of the one they had forgotten to even call in by name. My child, I see you in that same way. In the eyes of the world, you may be just another face in the crowd, an ordinary employee, a child who does not stand out, a mother, a father, a spouse, a sibling, with nothing special to tell. But in my eyes, you are a story like no other, a line of melody I composed uniquely, a place where I long to reveal my beauty in a way I have never revealed it through anyone else. That is why I am inviting you to begin speaking to yourself with the words I have spoken, instead of repeating the phrases that have bruised your soul for years. When you make a mistake, instead of immediately labeling yourself useless, stop and say, I have just failed, but I am still someone God loves. I can learn from this failure. When you feel inferior to someone else, instead of sinking into shame, be honest. I feel small, but you have called me by name, so I still have a place in your heart. When you see the weak corners of your character, you can say, this is an area that needs transformation, but it does not erase the fact that I am chosen. At first, these new sentences will feel strange, like learning a new language, but with each repetition, they will begin to replace the old narratives. You are not using them to numb yourself, but to agree with the truth I have already declared. This is part of how you let me fill you, within, not with empty slogans, but with living words that slowly seep into every crack of a wounded self-worth. When I tell you to let go of the world, it is not to push you into a cold, empty space. It is so that I can pour into you a completely new identity, the identity of a beloved child. This is not just a beautiful title to enjoy during prayer time. It is the foundation beneath your everyday steps. When you truly believe you are loved unconditionally, you will no longer have to strive to win the gaze of others. You will no longer have to paint yourself in a flawless, artificial image. You will dare to be honest about your fractures because you know they do not make me turn you away. A person who knows they are loved lives differently, not because they are more talented, but because they are no longer driven by the fear of being abandoned. I want to set you free from that fear, so that each time you look in the mirror, You do not see only flaws, wrinkles, scars, but see someone I have chosen to stay with all the way to the end. Then the things the world calls imperfections will lose their power to control your joy. They will become only small details in a much larger picture, the story of a soul being restored day by day into my image. My child, I know there is a hidden place in your heart that you rarely dare to touch, the place where you store what you are most ashamed of. There lie your wrong choices, the moments you compromise with darkness, the words that wounded others, the actions you still cannot think of without wanting to look away. Some of these things happened years ago and no one mentions them anymore, yet a single small reminder can make your heart tighten and whisper, "If only I hadn't, back then." From those memories you quietly conclude, "I am a terrible person, I am unworthy. God may forgive, but surely He does not look at me the same." My child, I see every door you have locked, every corner you keep in shadow, every story you dare not tell, and it is precisely those places where I want to come, not to expose you to the ridicule of others, but to unlock the chains that keep you imprisoned in shame and self-condemnation. The sins you have committed are real, and the consequences are often very real, but sin is never allowed to be the final definition of who you are. When you fall, what you did was wrong, but you do not become that sin. You may have lied, but you are not forever stamped liar. You may have fallen into lust, but you are not branded impure for life. You may have shattered a relationship, but you are not eternally the one who only destroys. The world is quick to merge action and identity into one. They see what you did and attach a name to you. I, however, distinguish clearly. I hate what is destroying you, but I do not hate you. I stand against the filth that binds you, but I am always on your side in the battle to free you from it. If you go on seeing yourself as the sum of everything worst you have ever done, you will find it almost impossible to believe in my grace. That is why I must begin by separating you from the labels that sin has stamped onto your mind. Remember the story of the prodigal son. He squandered his inheritance, lived recklessly, traded the honor of his father's house for his own gratification. When he returned, he prepared a speech soaked in shame. "I am no longer worthy to be called your son. Treat me as one of your hired servants." That is the same speech you have often repeated before me, "Lord, just don't abandon me. I don't dare hope to be as close as before. I know how awful I am. I only deserve to stand outside." But my child, the father in that story, did not wait for his son to finish kneeling. He did not let him recite his whole self-condemning speech. He ran out, embraced him, put a new robe on him, a ring on his finger, shoes on his feet, and prepared a feast. The son still remembered clearly everything he had done, but his father chose to define him by different words. "This son of mine was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found." I see you the same way. I do not deny the stains in your past, but I refuse to call you by their names. When you return, you resume your place as a child, not a hired hand trying to pay off a debt, but a son or daughter being restored. I know you often say, "I believe you forgive me," but I cannot forgive myself. It sounds humble, but in reality, that sentence pushes my word aside to hold on to your own verdict. Forgiveness is not something you must manufacture and then hand to yourself as a reward. Forgiveness is a gift I purchased at great cost and have already placed in your hands. When my only son hung upon the wood, he carried everything that makes you ashamed, every failure that makes you bow your head, every wrong that convinces you I can never be fixed. That blood did not erase just part of the record and then leave you to pay off the rest with lifelong guilt. It cleansed so completely that I declare I will remember your sins no more meaning. I will not use them as the basis on which I relate to you. When you say I cannot forgive myself, you are clinging to a file I have already torn up. You are carrying a load I have already lifted from your shoulders. I am not asking you to deny consequences or pretend the past never happened. I am inviting you to place the final right of judgment into my hands instead of locking yourself in a prison built by your own sense of unworthiness. My child, what makes the darkness rejoice is not when you fall, but when you believe that you have fallen too far to ever rise again. The enemy of your soul whispers, "Look at what you've done. How dare you pray again? You're a hypocrite. You had your chance and you ruined everything. God cannot use someone like you." And because you've repeated those sentences in your heart for so long, they slowly became truth to you. Today I come to call that by its real name, a lie. It is those who think they are not sinful who struggle most to receive grace. But those who know they are weak, who know they need a mercy greater than their own ability to fix themselves, are the ones whose hands open easily to receive. I am never reluctant to work with someone who has fallen. I only struggle to work with someone who believes they are permanently stamped as worthless. When you dare to believe that I can still write on the parts of your life you thought were ruined, you have already taken a great step out of the land of self-condemnation and into the land of healing. I am not promising that from now on you will never fail again. I know that the journey of growing up always includes slips and stumbles. But I want to change the way you respond each time you fall. Instead of running from me, you can run to me. Instead of hiding, you can confess. Instead of sitting endlessly in shame, you can stand up believing that I am still your Father. Every time you choose to do that, the chains of shame loosen a little more. Every time you dare to bring the raw truth of yourself before me, the darkness loses yet another foothold. I am not asking you to become perfect overnight. I am teaching you not to let failure become your identity. That is why I continually remind you of your true name, loved, chosen, redeemed, held in my hand. As this root goes deeper, every other voice will lose its power. There are wounds you have caused to others, and those are the ones that weigh heaviest on your heart. You ask, how can God use me when I've caused pain myself? I do not ignore your sin. I will lead you down the path of making amends, where possible inviting you to apologize, inviting you to humbly accept consequences. But at the same time, I want you to know that even those scars, when placed in my hands, become places where I pour comfort into others who carry similar wounds. I do not only use the bright and polished parts of your life, I also use the places that once collapsed, as long as you allow me to enter and renew them. Shame wants you to hide forever in the shadows. Mercy wants to lead you into the light so that you may be healed and become a living witness that there is no pit so deep that my grace cannot reach it. And as you begin to see yourself, not through the old verdicts but through the story I am still writing, you will feel lighter, quieter inside, and ready to walk forward, not like someone living under a suspended sentence, but like a child, coming home day by day. Child, I want you to learn to live as someone who truly believes they have been renamed. Because if you only know in your mind that you are forgiven but continue reacting, thinking, and choosing like someone who is condemned, my words will remain like sunlight blocked by a thick curtain. I do not simply want to erase your debt. I want to give you a new identity and teach you to walk in it daily. What I am doing within you is not repainting an old wall. It is rebuilding the entire house from the foundation up. I did not come to decorate the surface of your old self. I came to give you a new life, a new heart, a new direction. But my child, to live in, that you must begin to see yourself through my eyes, not through the distorted mirror the world and your past have held in front of you. Imagine a prisoner who, after years in confinement, is declared innocent and set free. The gate is open, the shackles removed, but if he still believes he is a criminal, he will continue living as if he were imprisoned, even while standing in an open square. He may hesitate to step forward, keep his head down, fear every pair of eyes, expect a shout behind him at any moment, and feel unworthy of being anywhere bright. My child, many times your soul has been like that. I have declared you free, torn up the accusations against you, called you forgiven, but inside you still curl up in a corner, afraid to enter the space I prepared for you. You shrink back from opportunities I give because you think I'm not worthy. You pull away from healthy relationships because you think eventually they'll see how terrible I am. You stay silent when I nudge you to comfort someone because you think I've messed up too much. Who am I to speak? But my child, you do not stand there as someone perfect. You stand as someone shown mercy. Your tears, your detours, your ashes, when entrusted to me, become the very testimony you can offer to others who desperately need hope. Transformation does not happen in one moment, but it does begin in a moment and continues every day. The moment you return and receive my forgiveness is like a child being lifted out of the mud. From that point on, they must learn to walk in a new environment, learn to wear new clothing, learn to live in a new way. The stains on the skin I wash, but the old habits, the old patterns of thought, the old reflexes take time to be changed. So do not be surprised when some days you still find yourself quick to anger, quick to envy, quick to wobble before familiar temptations. I am not surprised by these things. I do not say, "See, you haven't changed at all," and turn away. I come closer, place my hand on your shoulder and say, "It is precisely because I know you are weak that I am here." I will teach you step by step to recognize when an old thought is rising, to pause before reacting out of habit, to return to the truth I have spoken. Every time you choose to stop rather than rush down the old path, even if the step is small, that is a victory, a sign that your new identity is putting down roots. To live in the identity of the beloved, you will need to learn something that has always been hard for you: patience with yourself. You grew up under the system of either perfect or a failure, so at the smallest sign that you are not changing fast enough, you conclude, "There is no hope for me." But I do not use that system. I know you are formed from dust. I know the wounds, the patterns, the long-set grooves in your soul. I do not excuse sin, but I understand why you struggle. And in that understanding, I both heal and teach and uphold. Look honestly. Compared to yourself a few years ago, are you softer, more attentive to my voice, quicker to return, more willing to admit you're wrong? These are my footprints on your journey. I do not expect a flawless upward line. I walk with you on a path with its twists and slopes, with ascents and descents, but always bending toward me. Each time you fall and still return, you reject the lie that you are finished. Each time you are weak and still call out to me, you are living more as a child than as a servant trying to prove their worth. Do not let comparison steal the joy of growing at the pace I designed for you. Some change quickly in one area and slowly in another. Some break free from an obvious sin, but wrestle for years with pride, jealousy, bitterness. I look at each person in the context of their whole life, in the light of everything they've endured, never apart from their history, wounds, and circumstances. What I want from you is not to be as good as them or like that person, but simply this: today, will you give me just a little more room to work with you? Sometimes that little more room is nothing more than a more honest confession, a small refusal of a temptation, a brave step to apologize, a quiet moment where you choose silence instead of arguing to protect your pride. Others may never notice these things, but I notice and I rejoice. Heaven does not rejoice only when a person returns for the first time. Heaven also rejoices in every small step when you continue to return again and again, deeper and truer each time. My child, I want you to learn something very important. To live as someone who is loved means you no longer have to work hard at performing the best version of yourself in front of me. You do not need to step into my presence with a face that is always bright, words that are always polished, and emotions that are always up to standard. I do not frown when you come to me with swollen eyes from crying, with a voice shaking from anger, with a mind in turmoil, with questions that still have no answers. On the contrary, I treasure the times when you dare bring the truth of your condition to me more than the times you come in a carefully polished religious shell. A healthy child is not one who is always smiling, but one who runs home whenever they are in pain, sad, tired, or afraid. I want you to become that kind of person, the kind who in their most panicked moments instinctively thinks of me first instead of thinking, "No, I can't go near God when I'm like this." My child, it is precisely in those moments that I most long to hold you. From this new identity, your way of seeing others will also slowly change. When you stop condemning yourself as worthless, you will be less quick to slap labels on others. When you believe that I have forgiven you and still trust you, you will find it easier to forgive and give others another chance. When you know you are loved even in your unfinished state, you will learn how to love others in the middle of their unfinished journeys. From there, your life will no longer just be a project of fixing yourself, but will become a stream of grace, touching those you meet. I am not calling you to wait until you feel worthy before you start giving. That day will never come according to your standard. I am calling you to begin now with the understanding you currently have, with the scars you still carry, with the winding story I am still writing. One honest sharing, one compassionate look, one simple sentence, like "I've failed too, but God didn't leave me," will carry far more weight than a flawless but distant sermon. You yourself are living proof that I can love a person to the very end, that I can lift someone up even when they thought they had no place left to stand. Therefore, today I invite you to lay down an old script, the script in which you are always the faded secondary character, the one who is not enough, unworthy, never going to amount to anything. Let me rewrite the story about you the way I have long seen it. You are the one I call by name, the one I paid a price to redeem, the one I delight to walk with, the one I am not ashamed to call beloved child. Each morning, instead of letting the old sentences wake up first, practice saying to me, "Today, please teach me to live as someone who is loved, not as someone who must prove their worth." Each night, instead of making a long list of everything you did poorly, sit with me and let me remind you of the places where you responded to grace. Not so that you become proud, but so that you know I truly am at work in you, and whatever I begin, I will bring to completion. I am not in a hurry, and I do not give up. You may be tired of yourself, but I am not tired of you. You may be frustrated with the ups and downs of this journey, but I still walk every step patiently beside you. I see the end of the road where you cannot yet see, and at that end I see a person transformed, not turned into someone else, but become the fullest version of who you are in my design. From now until that day, what I ask of you is simply this: do not agree with any voice that calls you by a name other than the one I have given you. Do not close the door of returning to me because you think you are unworthy. Do not quit halfway because you assume I have lost hope in you. I still hope, because my hope is not based on your strength but on my own nature, the one who loves you, chooses you, and has decided to stay with you until the work of art I am painting in you is complete. Walk with me each day like a child, learning to trust that they are loved, and you will gradually see everything within and around you begin to change in ways you cannot yet imagine. My child, now I want to take your hand and lead you into the place your soul most wants, to avoid the place of the sharp questions you carry when life does not turn out the way you hoped. I know there are nights when you stare at the ceiling in silence, your heart full of things you dare not put into words. Why did everything end up like this? Why do I pray and nothing seems to change? Why, even when I try to believe and cling to you, do I still have to walk through things that feel like they're tearing my heart apart? There are moments when you look around and it seems others have it easier, more successful, more peaceful, while you drag your feet wearily along a path strewn with sharp stones. You have often asked yourself, did I do something so wrong that you let these things happen to me, or am I simply not worth your attention, my child? I hear every one of those questions even when you do not dare to bring them into prayer and keep them instead in a very hidden corner of your heart. I am not angry when you are confused. I do not withdraw from you when you no longer have the strength to speak spiritually correct words. On the contrary, it is precisely when you are at a dead end, when you no longer know how to pray, when all you can manage is a sigh. I'm in so much pain. I don't understand that I come closer to you than ever. I am not the one who only smiles at celebrations and then turns away when the room is left with only dim yellow light and quiet sighs. I sit down next to you in the midnight hour, when everyone else is asleep, when every roll has fallen from your face, when all that remains is the real you, with all your exhaustion, discouragement, tears, and unanswered questions. I am not afraid of your questions. I only fear that you might think you are not allowed to bring them to me, and so you hold them alone until you slowly sink into despair. First, you must know that your pain is never small to me. I see what others cannot see, hear the sobs no one else hears, and understand the very faint tremors in your heart that even you cannot explain. I was there in the hospital room when the doctor spoke words you did not want to believe you heard correctly. I was there the moment you held the termination letter and watched your future suddenly go blank. I was there when the person you trusted most turned their back, leaving behind an emptiness no word could fill. I was there in the days when you tried to smile at everyone, but the moment the door closed behind you, tears came without you even trying. I was there very close, even when you felt I was silent. My silence is never a sign of indifference. Often it is the moment I am holding you without words, because I know that if I speak too soon, you will only hear theory, not yet receive it, as true comfort. Still, I also want to tell you something that is hard to believe in the midst of the storm, your pain. Though I never delight in the fact that it hurts, you can still become the material from which something deeper, better, and more beautiful is formed within you. I am not the one who invents sickness to teach you a lesson, nor the one who deliberately breaks you just to later make it up as if playing a power game. This world has been fractured by sin, by selfish choices, by greed and cruelty. People wound one another. Unjust systems crush the vulnerable, and the randomness of life brings losses no one saw coming. You are not perfect either. Sometimes your own rash decisions, your wrong choices, contribute to your suffering. But in the midst of all that chaos, I am still the one who can step in, take each shard the enemy meant to use to destroy you, and weave it into my tapestry of restoration. You see one tear-stained chapter and think it is the whole story. I see the entire book. Remember Joseph, the son hated by his brothers, sold like a commodity, falsely accused, thrown into prison. If you had met him on his first night in that dungeon, you might have asked, "Where are the dreams you gave me long ago? Lord, is this the end of someone you chose?" But from my perspective, each time that boy was pushed lower, he was being led closer to the place I had prepared for him, the place where he would save an entire nation, including those who had hurt him. I do not excuse the cruelty of Joseph's brothers, but I do not allow evil to dictate the final chapter. In the end, Joseph himself would say, "You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good." My child, it is very hard to say such a sentence when you are still standing in the middle of the prison, and I do not ask you to say it right now. But I want you to know that the same God who wrote Joseph's story is writing yours. I do not abandon the work halfway. I do not close the book at the darkest chapter. My child, I do not only use circumstances to rearrange the external details of your life, I also use them to deepen the inner person within you. The seasons you call failure are often the seasons in which your soul grows more than in any other time. When everything goes well, it is very easy to believe you can manage on your own, easy to forget that every heartbeat, every breath, every unseen protection is grace. But when an important support is taken from your hand, your health, your finances, a relationship, a future opportunity, you suddenly face the questions, what remains? If these things are gone, who am I? If these roles are taken away, where does my hope truly rest? If you allow me to converse with you in those questions, you will begin to build your life on a different foundation, not on what can be changed, but on the one who does not change, not on what you possess, but on my love for you, not on the image you try to construct, but on the truth that you belong to me. I know that some of your pain comes from the wrongs done to you by others, and some comes from your own choices. For the things others have done to you, I come as the one who has compassion, who holds you, comforts you, and heals you. For the things you have brought upon yourself, I come as the one who forgives, who leads you on the path of making things right, who teaches you to choose better. But in both cases, I do not push you away. Do not believe the lie that God is only with those who are strong, successful, and morally flawless. I am especially near to the broken-hearted and the crushed in spirit. There was a time when I walked with 3 young men in a fiery furnace without putting out the fire right away, but my presence in the flames kept the fire from consuming them. Likewise, there will be times I do not remove every trial immediately, but I stand in it with you so that it cannot destroy your soul. When you come out, the wounds may still leave scars, but those scars will carry a story of preservation, not just of pain. My child, I do not ask you to wear a fake smile when your heart is shattered. I do not require you to say I'm fine before me when you are not fine. I do not call you to name black as white or call pain joy. I allow you to weep, to lament, to tell the full truth about how you feel. What I ask of you is that you do not let your pain become a wall that shuts you off from me. Let it become a bridge that carries you deeper into my heart. Instead of withdrawing in silence, bring those very questions to me. Why do I have to go through this? Where am I in your eyes? What am I supposed to hold on to? When everything else is slipping from my hands, I will not always answer you with immediate explanations. Many times, the first answer I give you is my very presence. A strange peace that begins to spread into places that were previously only tension. A new endurance appearing where you were sure you had no patience left. A tiny but very real spark of hope flickering to life in a corner of your heart that has long been filled with darkness. Not a single tear you lift up to me is meaningless. Not one sleepless night goes uncounted by me. There is no prayer you breathe out in despair that I do not hear. I keep all of it in my hands, not to store your sorrow, but so that one day I may turn those waters into a stream for you and for others. The places that today you call the grave of your hope may become the very doors that lead you into a new kind of intimacy with me that you have never known before. The things you see as the absolute end may turn out to be transitions that move you into a new chapter, not an easier chapter, but a deeper one, richer in meaning, where you understand that your worth is not found in what you hold on to, but in the one who has held you through every upheaval. I am here not waiting only at the end of the road for you. I do not say, when you get through this, then come to me. I say, let me go through it with you. When you have no strength left to walk, let me carry you. When you no longer have words to pray, let your sighs become your prayer. When you no longer feel me, cling to the truth that I have promised never to leave you nor forsake you, and I am not a God who breaks his word. One day when you look back, you will see that on these very stretches of rough, stony road, my footprints beside yours were pressed deepest of all. And when you meet others who are weeping the same kind of tears you once wept, you will be able to hold them and say, I don't have all the answers, but I know the one who did not abandon me, and he will not abandon you. In that moment, your pain will cease to be only a wound. It will become a channel of comfort, of hope, of my presence for many other souls. My child, After you have wept with me over the things you do not understand, I now want to gently lead you deeper into an area your soul often confuses my silence. Many times what hurts you is not only the circumstance itself, but the feeling that I seem to say nothing, to give no answer to, fail to intervene as you hoped. There have been evenings when you knelt, poured out your whole heart before me, and when you rose, you expected a clear sign, a wide open door, an immediate change. Instead, everything remained the same. You looked around and saw no difference. The problem still there, people unchanged, and you wondered, where is God in this silence? What is He doing? While I'm waiting for myself to exhaustion, my child, I hear that question, and I do not rebuke you for asking it. I only want to adjust one thing. Silence does not mean I am absent. Silence does not mean I have abandoned you. Many times it is precisely in my silence that I am doing the deepest, most enduring work that is least noticeable to you. Remember that when a seed is sown into the ground, it lies in darkness, in stillness. No one sees, no one hears, no one claps. If you judge only by appearances, you might think nothing is happening. Yet right there in the damp darkness, life is stirring. The shell is cracking, roots are pressing downward, and the sprout is quietly turning upward. If in impatience someone digs up the seed to check if anything is happening, they will kill the process they lack the patience to trust. Very often you treat your own life the same way you pray for a while. Then you dig everything up with doubt, with comparison, with hasty conclusions that God is not doing anything. My child, there are things I do in the dark that you can only understand when harvest time comes. The season of silence is not wasted time. It is the time when the roots of your faith grow deeper into places no one can see, so that when the first strong winds blow, you will not be uprooted. I know you want quick answers, early exits, visible results to calm your heart. You live in a world that demands everything immediately, instantly. No waiting. So it is very easy for you to put that same hurried rhythm onto me. But I am not swept along by the rush of this age. I work according to my timing, and my timing is always tied to what is best for your soul, not merely to your present comfort. Many times, if I answered you the moment you opened your mouth, if I opened the door, you demanded exactly when you were not ready. You would wield the blessing like a weapon that wounds yourself and others. If I gave you a position, while your heart still carries unhealed wounds, you would turn that position into a hiding place for your brokenness instead of a place of pouring out. If I gave you a new relationship while you still clutch tightly to the fear of abandonment, you would suffocate the other person with demands. If I mended your outer circumstances without touching the roots within you, would return to the same broken place in another form. That is why sometimes I choose to remain silent in order to keep working inside you before I work around you. Look back at the times when I seemed to arrive late from a human point of view. When Lazarus was sick, his sisters Mary and Martha sent word to me. They believed that if I came in time, death could be avoided. But I stayed 2 more days. From their perspective, that delay was incomprehensible. From mine, it was the doorway for them to experience an entirely new depth. I am not only the one who heals, I am the one who raises the dead. They wanted a miracle that would prevent death. I gave them a greater miracle, my glory revealed in the very midst of mourning. My child, I do not always work in your life exactly as I did in that story, but one principle never changes. I am never late in my plan, even though many times I am not on time according to the clock in your heart. When I delay, it is not because I enjoy stretching out your pain. It is because I am preparing something that could not happen if everything unfolded at the pace you desire. There are why questions for which you will not receive full explanations in this lifetime. Not because I am afraid for you to know, but because your understanding cannot encompass the whole picture, and sometimes knowing only part without seeing the whole would weigh you down more than it would set you free. like a child asking their father about matters far beyond their capacity. The father may answer in part, but cannot explain every detail of responsibility, finances, strategy, history, and context. Instead, he gathers the child into his arms and says, "You cannot grasp it all, but you can trust that I will take care of it." I am the same with you. I give you enough light for the next step, not for the entire road all the way to the horizon. If I showed you everything, you would either be terrified and run or become proud and forget me. Light for this step invites you to walk in daily dependence. That is how faith grows, not by holding the complete blueprint of the future in your hand, but by learning to trust me through every stretch you cannot see clearly. My child, I know that waiting exhausts you, because waiting means admitting there are things you cannot control. In the waiting, you are easily attacked by comparison. Others already have their answers. I still don't. By self-blame, maybe I lack faith. By doubt, maybe God doesn't care about me anymore. I want to make it clear to you that waiting is not proof of abandonment. Many times it is the practice of trust. I do not measure your faith by the speed at which miracles happen, but by whether you keep holding my hand when the miracle has not yet come. A faith that can only stand when every request is granted immediately is still a very young faith. I want to bring you into a deeper love where you can say, no matter how you choose to answer, I still want to be with you. Even if you are silent, I will not let go of your hand. In the time when I am silent, remember that I am still speaking, just not always in the way you are used to. I speak through my word, through verses that suddenly pierce deeply into your circumstance. I speak through songs that you happen to hear at the exact moment you need them. Through a friend who knows nothing yet sends a message you know for sure is not a coincidence. I speak through the morning sky that reminds you there is still one who holds the universe. Through a fragile, thin moment of peace you sense in the midst of a tense, overwhelming day. I also speak through the very emptiness itself, where you begin to realize that all the other things that once distracted you have been stripped away, so that you are forced to face the deepest longing of your own heart, not merely the desire for things to be okay, but the desire for me. My silence is not a high wall, but an open space where you learn to hear subtler sounds, much like how your eyes, once accustomed to the dark, begin to notice details you first thought were not there. I am not calling you to comfort yourself with shallow slogans. I call you to anchor your heart in the truths no circumstance can change. I am still who I am, even in this season when you are weeping. My love has not lessened, even though you have not yet seen an answer. My faithfulness remains intact, even when you do not understand my ways. On some days you do not have the strength to remember many truths. You only have enough strength to cling to a single sentence. The Lord my God is with me. Hold on to that. On some nights you have no other words except, please don't leave me. Let that cry rise. I will not reject it. At times you cannot truly pray. You only manage to breathe. Oh God, I hear that too. I do not measure prayer by its length, its eloquence, or the intensity of feeling, but by the sincerity of a heart that turns toward me. So in this season of silence, I am not telling you to stop asking. I am only inviting you to ask within my embrace, not from a void where you imagine I am absent. You can say, I don't understand, but I want to believe. You can say, I am weak, please lift me up. You can confess, I am very angry, but I still come to you because I do not want to be far from you. Every such word, no matter how awkward, is a thread tying your heart to mine. One day when you look back, you will see that it was precisely in the longest quiet stretches that I wrote the deepest lines in the story between you and me. And you will realize that my silence was never absence. It was the time I was working most quietly, yet most powerfully, so that in due season you would rise, not merely as someone who survived the storm, but as one who carries within them a new understanding that even when you cannot hear, cannot see, cannot understand, you are still held in my arms. My beloved child, I want to speak to you about something that every person must face, yet few dare to look at directly: how you will go on after the wounds, after the seasons of silence, after the chapters of life you thought you would never rise from. Your heart has once thought, if this ever ends, maybe I will never be able to trust again. Maybe I'll just live half-heartedly, just getting by. I hear that whisper, and I do not condemn you for being tired. But my child, I did not create you so that you would merely get through the days drifting like a leaf carried wherever the current goes. I call you into life, not just breath, but a life with purpose, with meaning, with a path and a destination. That is why when I step into the territory of your ruins, I do not come only to wipe away tears and then depart. I come to take your hand, to help you stand, to lead you out of the rubble, to walk with you into steps you thought you could never take again. You often think that when everything inside you is in chaos, the best you can do is to withdraw, shrink your heart, stop opening yourself to anyone, including to me, just to avoid further hurt. I do not make light of your need for rest, for protection, for being still after a blow. I know there are days when you cannot see anyone, cannot smile, cannot respond to small talk. But I do not want you to build a permanent house on the land of your pain. I allow you to stop, but I do not want you to stop forever. If you lock yourself into the story of the one who was hurt, you will unintentionally turn what happened into your only identity. I want to give you a different identity. You are not only the one who has been wounded, you are the one I have touched in the midst of that wound. You are not only the one who has fallen, you are the one I have lifted up. You are not only the one who has lost, you are the one I am quietly compensating in a deeper way. I know there are things you have lost that will never return in the exact form they once had. There are people who have walked out of your life and will not come back. There are opportunities that have passed and will not come a second time. There are years you feel were stolen by illness, by wrong choices, by constraints beyond your control. I do not tell you that everything will go back to how it was as if nothing ever happened. I do not paint over real loss with rosy colors. But I want you to know that I can do something else with those very years you feel were wasted. I can use those experiences to open your eyes to landscapes you would never have seen before. I can use those old tears to soften your heart toward the pain of others. I can use your stumblings to awaken in you a humility and compassion rarely learned by those who never collide with life. What has passed does not vanish into meaningless emptiness. When you place it in my hands, it becomes seed for a new season. Imagine a tree struck by lightning, its trunk shredded bark split open passers-by, seeing only the brutal scar. Yet after a time, new shoots spring from that very wound. The tree does not return to its state before the lightning. It bears the scar, and at the same time it bears new foliage, nourished by the very sap that once flowed through the charred wood. Your life is the same. Events have marked you, but not only with destruction. If you allow me to nourish you right at the fracture, I will cause new shoots of hope and love to grow from the place you thought was only burn mark and ash. The scar will not disappear, but it will no longer be only the sign of pain. It will become a testimony that there was once fire there, yet the fire did not consume everything. You often ask me, what can I do with what has happened? How can I move forward when my trust has been eroded, when I have hoped and been disappointed? I do not ask you to pull yourself up by sheer willpower or motivational slogans. I invite you to begin with a very small step, turning your face back toward me. You do not need a grand plan for the future. You only need to dare to say to me, I still want to go on with you, even though I don't yet know how. That small step is immensely precious to me. From that step, I will teach you to walk again, one step at a time, like a child learning to walk after a heavy fall. I will not rush you into running. I will hold your hand, guide you by degrees patiently. My patience with you is far greater than the patience you have for yourself. What you have gone through has not stripped you of the right to rejoice, to dream, to love, and to truly live again. The enemy wants you to believe your life is now only the aftermath of the past, that from this point on you can only exist as one permanently damaged. But I see you as someone still on a journey, not as a story forever sealed by misfortune or mistake. The scars on your body and in your soul are not proof that you are ruined. They are signs that you have passed through hard places with me. One day, when you meet people standing where you once stood, you will realize that your own experience, when placed in my hands, becomes a key that unlocks their hearts. You will not speak only from theory. You will speak from what you have lived, wept through, and been comforted in. I once used a man who denied me 3 times to later strengthen the faith of his brothers. I once used a persecutor of the church to become the one who preached my grace everywhere. I have long used people who are weak, hot-tempered, impatient, and full of scars to bring the good news to countless souls. I do not choose perfect people, for on this earth there are none. I choose those who are willing to place their winding chapters into my hands. If you only see yourself through the darkest pages, you will think you have been disqualified from my plan. But if you see me standing in the middle of those very pages, you will know that it is there I am preparing you for things you cannot yet imagine. What I invite you to do in this season is not to do many great things to make up for what was lost, but to be faithful with the small things I set before you each day. It may be nothing more than waking up to another morning and whispering, "Thank you that I am still here." It may be the courage to answer a phone call you have avoided for a long time. It may be sending a message to apologize, or simply opening your heart to receive help from others, instead of trying to prove that you are fine. These things that seem so small, when done with the awareness that I am walking with you, become the bricks I use to rebuild in you a new path, a path of trust, of humility, of gentle courage. After the seasons of trial, the way you look at life has changed. You now treasure a peaceful morning, a simple meal, an honest conversation, a warm embrace. What once felt ordinary has become a gift. That is the first fruit of walking through pain without letting your heart grow hard. I want to continue nurturing that posture within you so that you do not become bitter but profoundly grateful. Gratitude does not lessen what you have endured. It simply keeps your pain from swallowing the whole picture. It reminds you that even in harsh seasons there are still small rays of light I placed along the way to tell you that I have never left you. My child, many times out of shame, out of pride, out of fear of being misunderstood, you closed every door and tried to carry everything alone. I honor your desire for privacy, but I did not design you to live in isolation. I placed around you people who can be arms, ears, and shoulders for you if you are willing to be honest. When you share your story wisely and with the right hearts, you will discover that you are not the only one wrestling with such burdens, and in that meeting place I am present. I am there in sincere conversations, in shared tears, in simple prayers, in the hand that holds yours when you tremble. I want to use others to lift you up, and I also want to use you to lift others, not when you are completely healed, but even as you are still being restored. So do not close your life's book simply because a few chapters are soaked in tears. Do not put a period where I have only placed a comma. Do not lock yourself inside the story of the wounded one when I am calling you into the story of the one restored and sent. I do not erase your past, but I give you strength to look at it without being bound by it. I do not promise that you will never cry again, but I promise you will never have to cry alone. I do not say that everything will become easy, but I say that everything you go through when placed in my hands will be woven into a purpose greater than you can imagine. Today, if all you have left is a tiny measure of courage, a tiny measure of faith, a tiny measure of desire to keep living, bring all of that tiny measure to me. I do not ask you for a magnificent faith. I ask only for a heart that does not shut itself. Tell me, Please do not let me merely survive, teach me to live. Say, please use even my worst days to shape something good that I cannot yet understand. I hear those words, and I receive them. From there I will continue the work I have begun, healing, rebuilding, renewing, expanding. One day you will stand in a different season, look back, and understand deeply that every trembling step you take today is not meaningless. Every step you walk with me is remembered, and all of them lead you to the place I have long desired for you, where your soul rests in my love, even when the winds still blow outside. Where you can say, not as theory, but as testimony. Yes, I walked through fire, but he was there. Yes, I suffered loss, but he never abandoned me. And it is he who taught me what it truly means to live. My child, as the heavy clouds of trial begin to thin, and the tears no longer fall as fiercely as they did in the first shock, I know a new question is beginning to rise within you. So how do I live from here? There may be no more raging storms, yet your heart still feels like an empty field, after harvest only stubble left with dry streaks of earth. You look back at what happened, at what has been lost, at relationships, altered, at doors that closed, and deep inside you wonder, how can I live a life that is not just dragging myself through the days, but one that is worthy of the love you have shown me? That question comes from a beautiful longing within you, and I honor it. I do not fault you for still feeling tired at times, still feeling unready to begin again. I simply want to sit beside you right there in the empty field of your soul and plant new seeds with you, not with fear, not with self-driven striving, but with quiet trust placed in me. You have heard many times that I have a plan for your life, and in peaceful seasons that sounds like a beautiful slogan. But after walking through turbulent chapters, you begin to wonder, does that plan still exist, or has everything fallen apart beyond repair, my child? I want you to know nothing that surprises you ever surprises me. I am not a passive observer scrambling to fix what you or others broke. Before you entered any season, I saw the whole journey. No twist, no darkness, no detour lies outside my sight. This does not mean I control people like puppets or force every choice. It means that even when you or others choose wrongly, I can still weave those tangled threads into a larger pattern. What you have lived through does not erase my intention for you. It becomes part of the material through which that intention is revealed more deeply when you let me continue writing. Even so, my purpose for you is not merely a big project far in the future, not a title, not a role, not a spectacular achievement. My purpose, first of all, is that you live in a relationship with me, day by day, hour by hour. Many imagine that fulfilling God's purpose means doing something grand, reaching a special position, preaching to multitudes, doing works that cause admiration. But I want to whisper to you, I delight in the small moments you turn your face toward me in the midst of ordinary life. When you sit quietly for a few minutes each morning and place your first thoughts of the day in my hands, you are walking in my purpose. When you choose gentleness instead of outburst, even if no one praises you, heaven sees it. When you do your work with integrity, even in the simplest tasks, you offer me a fragrant sacrifice. I do not wait until you accomplish something great to look at you with pleasure. I rejoice in each step you take, each moment you choose honesty, each word that reflects the kindness I planted in you. You often ask, but what should I do specifically? Where do you want me to serve? What path should I take? I understand that longing, and I am not vague. But before I show you the clear steps, I want to lay the foundation: willingness. A heart cleared of unnecessary attachments, a heart that has learned to release rigid personal plans, is a heart that hears me more easily. When your inner world is no longer crowded with the need to prove yourself, outperform others, or achieve what the world celebrates, you will realize that my will is often very near, very simple: a phone call to check in, a sincere apology, and a friary. Act of forgiveness, faithfulness to your family, gentleness toward a difficult coworker, a little courage to stand for what is right. I do not consider these things small. They are the very foundation upon which I can entrust you with the greater things your heart has long desired. If a person is not faithful in little, the big things placed in their hands will crumble. I love you too much to place on your shoulders a weight that your inner foundation is not yet strong enough to bear. You may think your life has now fallen off the rails compared to what you once imagined, and that perhaps the best you can do is try to live somewhat steadily and leave the rest to fate. But I have never written your life like a flawless blueprint that only looks beautiful when there are no erasures. I write like an artist who can weave even the smudge strokes into the final painting. The years you call wasted, the turns you label wrong paths, the seasons you think were too late, all of them can be used by me to make you deeper, kinder, and more understanding of others if you place them in my hands. I do not delete your past as one would discard a corrupted file and force you to start from a blank page. I touch every blurred page, cleanse it, restore it, and continue writing upon it with the ink of grace. When you look back, you will not see a spotless, perfect life, but a story where at every turn my goodness appears like a thread running through all things. And that very story, not a polished resume, will become the gift you offer to those who struggle the way you once did. So instead of tormenting yourself with thoughts like I am late, I am ruined, I missed my chance, begin asking me a different question. Right now, with who I am in this moment, in this circumstance, what are you calling me to be faithful in? I will not answer you with a suffocating list. I will show you one small step at a time, just enough for a day. Today I may call you simply to forgive an old offense. Tomorrow to step out of a habit that pulls you away from me. On another day to accept an opportunity to serve that you once avoided. Each of these steps, though seemingly small, is a way you respond to the purpose I have for you. Do not underestimate small steps. Every long journey is built upon them. I am not asking you to sprint to the finish overnight. I am teaching you to walk with me step by step, believing that each quiet step is remembered and woven into a picture far greater than what your eyes can see today. And as your heart begins to open to this new way of living, you will slowly sense that you are no longer drifting, you are being led. You will not wake each morning fearing, what if my life is going off track? Because you will know that even if you cannot see the whole map, my hand is holding yours daily, hourly, unfailingly. My child, I want to take you deeper into how you walk each day once you have realized that life is not merely about surviving, but about moving in step with me through every breath. For if you only vaguely understand that I have a purpose for you, without knowing how to align yourself with that purpose, your heart will easily fall back into a middle ground, not hopeless anymore, but not fully awake either. I am not calling you to live in the tension of trying to figure out the grand plan, as though one wrong decision would ruin everything. I invite you into a living, flexible relationship, where you learn to recognize my footsteps in the small things, where you learn to respond to the gentle stirrings within you. And through those steps, the path becomes clearer beneath your feet. You often think of calling as something grand and dramatic, a mission in a faraway place, a distinguished ministry, a work that changes generations. I do not deny that some are placed in visible positions, but they are not more valuable than the ones placed in quieter corners. When I see a mother awake through the night holding her child, I do not overlook the steadfast love in her arms. When I see someone quietly caring for aging parents, I do not dismiss the sweat and the sighs. When I hear a difficult apology spoken between two wounded hearts, I treasure that tenderness no less than lofty sermons. My child, the deepest calling I give you is not to do something great for me before the world, but to resemble me where I have placed you. Whether that place is your family, workplace, classroom, small group, or a circle of only a few people. I want you to build a new habit instead of waking each day asking, what must I accomplish today? begin to ask, in these present circumstances, how can I reflect your heart today? The first question pressures you with performance. The second brings you into freedom, for the results belong to me, while your task is to let me shape your attitude, your words, and your actions. When you enter a meeting, you may whisper, "Teach me to say what builds up." When you meet someone you find difficult to love, you may pray, "Give me your eyes for them." When you must make a choice, rather than weighing everything by worldly metrics, you may ask, which choice draws me closer to you, makes me more honest, more loving. These simple whispers are the steps by which you weave my will into the details of your life. Many times you believe that to fulfill my intention, you must see the entire life plan, a detailed blueprint of every step until the end. But my child, it is precisely because I love you that I do not reveal everything at once. If you saw all the sharp turns ahead, fear might keep you from moving. If you saw all the doors I would open, pride might hide the truth that everything is grace. I choose to guide you with light enough for one stretch, like a lamp illuminating only a short distance in the night. When you walk forward, you receive more light for the next part. My guidance is not a thick calendar whose pages you can flip ahead. It is a continuous conversation. Today, you surrender, you obey in what is small. Tomorrow, you will receive clarity. Long journeys are discovered through short steps, and in that very process, our relationship is woven tighter and deeper. I know there are moments when you grow impatient, longing to just know everything so you do not have to endure this in between. You say, "If you tell me clearly, I will do it." But I want you to learn something deeper, to trust before you see, to obey before you understand fully. Not because I want you to walk in confusion, but because trust is the heartbeat of our relationship. If you only step forward when you have calculated every detail, you are relying more on your reasoning than on my heart. A child holds their father's hand crossing the road, not because they understand traffic laws, but because they know that hand will not let them go. And you too, I do not ask you to grasp every direction. I ask you to hold tightly to me. It is time for you to learn how to recognize the small signs I place along your path. I do not always speak through thunder, wind, or dazzling wonders. More often I speak through gentle movements, a discomfort in your spirit when you are about to choose something against truth, an inexplicable peace when you choose the right path even if it costs you, a sudden stirring when a story touches something deep inside you, as though I am awakening a hidden calling, a verse that suddenly shines with new clarity for your situation. If you are always rushing, always filling your days with noise, images, tasks, you will struggle to notice these delicate signals. This is why I continually call you back into silence, not to escape life, but to help you hear me more clearly as you walk back into life. Remember the boy with 5 loaves and 2 fish. In the eyes of adults, his portion was insignificant. But when I touched his small offering, it became a meal for thousands. His calling that day was not to perform something grand, but to dare to place what he had into my hands. You often think I am not prepared enough, not skilled enough, not holy enough, not valuable enough to offer anything. But I do not ask how much you have, I ask whether you are willing to give it. A sincere encouragement, a smile to someone having a terrible day, a bit of time to listen to a hurting soul, a simple skill used to help another. All of these can become 5 loaves and 2 fish in my hands. When you give, I do the multiplying. I extend the impact of what you consider small in ways you may never fully see on this earth. Your calling is never separate from the very nature I placed within you. The things that stir your heart, the burdens that keep returning, the compassion you feel for certain people, the subjects you can stay up late thinking and praying about, all these are traces I have left on your soul. Do not dismiss them as just personality. Bring them into prayer and ask me, are you using these to show me whom I'm called to love, to serve, to stand with? A calling is not a strange garment. you must force yourself to wear. It is like a garment tailored from the fabric of your own heart, only it must be measured, refined, and shaped by me, so it does not suffocate you, nor hang upon you without form. Beware of the temptation to compare. When you stare too long at someone else's path, you will either shrink back in inferiority because you feel small or grow arrogant because you think you are somehow more special. Both attitudes pull you away from the path I have laid out for you. I do not use someone else's measure to evaluate you. I use the light I have given specifically to you and ask, have you been faithful with this light? Others may be carrying 1 talent, 5 talents, or 10 talents. I will not ask you about their talents. I will only ask you about yours. If you spend your time envying what others carry, you will miss the small opportunities I am placing right in front of you. I want you to learn to rejoice in the portion entrusted to you, not because it is small or large, but because it comes from my hand. When you live this way, you will discover a strange freedom. You no longer need to become a copy of anyone else, nor do you need to pull others to become like you. You simply need to become whole in the role I have designed for you. On this journey, there will be times when you feel as though you are standing still, seeing no concrete progress. You may think I am not doing anything significant for God, but I want you to look again with different eyes. Have you become gentler with your loved ones? Have you learned to pause and ask me before reacting? Have you begun to say no to things that pull you away from me, even though they look attractive? Have you started to value small things and small people more? If the answer is yes, then those are the signs that I am at work in you and that you are walking in your deepest calling to let me shape you according to my heart. From that foundation, every outer function, task, responsibility, and act of service will carry the fragrance of life rather than being mere activity. I never grow tired of exploring with you what I have appointed for your life. You may have changed directions many times, tried and then quit, started, and then left things unfinished. I have seen it all, and I am still ready to begin again with you. I do not demand that you seize the one golden opportunity, and if you miss it, you are done forever. I have enough wisdom to turn your loops, delays, and experiments into part of how I deepen your inner being. What I am asking of you today is not a grand promise to do great things, but a simple response. I want to live the rest of my life under your guidance. Even if that looks very ordinary, I hear that answer and I accept it. From there, each morning when you wake, I will be there in a gentle quiet to whisper, "Today we walk on together. Give me your hand and we will go step by step. Your part is to trust. My part is to lead. My child, I will teach you how to keep the flame in your heart from going out in a life full of things that can distract you, discourage you, or carry you away without you noticing. If you only feel moved in a few rare moments, and then let the days sweep you along again, what I have sown in your heart will gradually be covered by the dust of busyness. I do not want our relationship to be just brief flashes of light during crises that fade once calm returns. I long to turn this communion into a steady flow, quiet but persistent, like an underground stream feeding an entire forest. You often set very big goals for your spiritual life. Starting tomorrow, I will pray longer, read the Word more, serve more, and when you cannot maintain it, you become disappointed and give up altogether. I am not asking you to change everything in one night. I want you to begin with small, honest moments. One morning, instead of rushing to grab your phone, sit still for just a few minutes, take a deep breath and say, "I am here. Please be with me today." If you offer me those few minutes with your whole heart, they are worth far more than many hours that simply slip by in unconsciousness. Gradually, those few minutes will grow longer, not because you force yourself, but because you realize your soul is being nourished in that time. You live in a world that pushes you to be on constantly, to respond, to achieve, to add one more thing. If you do not intentionally pause, you will be swept away like a leaf in a flood. I am not asking you to quit your job or abandon rightful responsibilities, but I do want you to build in small pauses throughout your schedule. It might be the moment you step away from the screen, look at the sky, and whisper, "I know you are here." It might be the time you sit in a vehicle, and instead of letting your thoughts spiral into negativity, you say, "Please keep my heart soft." It might be at lunch when you fold your hands and speak a short but sincere word of thanks. These stopping points are like markers that help you not lose your direction throughout the day. My child, you cannot keep the flame burning on your own. I give you fellowship with others not to burden you, but to give you support. When you are close to those who also long to live near me, your heart will be encouraged, reminded, and gently corrected when it begins to drift. I know you may fear opening up because of past hurts and misunderstandings. I do not belittle that pain. But I also know that if you close yourself off completely, your faith will dry up in the soil of isolation. I want to lead you to healthy connections, places where you can share honestly, not to be praised, but to be prayed for, places where you can listen to other people's stories and realize you are not alone on this path. When 2 or 3 turn toward me together, I am present in a very special way among them, and that presence carries what each one cannot carry alone. There will be times when you sit down to pray and your heart feels dry, no emotion, no tears, no sense of fire. If you rely solely on feelings to measure your relationship with me, you will quickly conclude, "Surely he has gone far from me." But my child, the deepest love is not the one that only burns bright in intense moments. It is the love that remains in the ordinary days. When you continue to come to me, even when you feel no emotional high, you are building a very solid foundation. You are showing me that you come for my sake, not just for the feelings you seek. You are like a friend who chooses to stay close, even when the conversation holds nothing special, because the value lies in presence, not in constant excitement. Every time you faithfully remain like this, the bond between us is drawn tighter, even if you do not see it right away. Life with me is not an endless series of mountaintops, but a journey woven with both peaks and valleys, sunny days and rainy days. There will be moments when you experience very clear guidance, answers, and miracles. But there will also be long stretches where you simply walk steadily in faithfulness, no fireworks, no applause. Do not think of those stretches as wasted time. They are where your faith is being strengthened. Remember, a tree does not grow while people are watching it, but in the quiet of day and night. Your soul is the same. I want you to examine how you treat yourself whenever you slip back into old habits. Perhaps you made a firm decision to leave something behind, a way of thinking, a behavior, an unhealthy relationship, a hidden habit. You did well for a time, and then one day you fell again. Your first reflex is to scold yourself, "I am a hypocrite. I will never change." And those very words make you want to give up. My child, I do not see you that way. When you stumble, I do not erase all the good steps you have taken. I see the whole journey, not just a single moment. If you come back to me, confess what has happened, and ask me to help you stand up and continue, I will not mock you, shame you, or roll my eyes. I will place my hand on your shoulder and say, "We will continue from here." Every time you rise again like that, you are refusing to let failure become your name. You are agreeing to let grace define you. My child, I also want to teach you how to guard your inner space from the things that slowly dull your spiritual sensitivity. I do not ask you to leave the world, but I ask you not to let everything flood into your heart without discernment. What you continually take in words, images, perspectives, stories, will slowly form the atmosphere within you. If you constantly allow bitterness, sarcasm, contempt, cynicism, and lust to pour in, you will find your heart heavy, dry, and unable to hear my voice clearly. I am not telling you to shut your eyes and ears to reality. I am inviting you to choose wisely what you read, what you watch, whom you listen to. which thoughts you allow to linger in your mind. When you choose to guard your heart from toxic noise, it is not naivete. It is precisely how you protect the inner space where I can continue to speak and continue to fill you. Do not forget that joy is also part of the journey with me. You have walked through many tears, many long nights, and many questions. Because of that, sometimes you feel you are not worthy of joy, or you are afraid that if you allow yourself to be happy, something bad will surely happen. But I have not called you to live in a posture of always waiting for disaster to strike. I want to teach you to enjoy the small gifts I place in your day: an afternoon breeze that is gentle, a piece of music that touches you, a sincere compliment, a small moment of success, a hug, a smile. When you smile and say thank you for this, you are allowing joy to become part of your worship. Joy does not deny pain. It is like a beam of light slipping into a room that still has many dark corners, telling you that the night is not all there is. There will be seasons when I send you farther than you ever imagined. That may not mean farther in geography, but farther beyond your inner comfort zone. I will place new stirrings in your heart, a deep tenderness toward the pain of a particular group of people, a desire to contribute to some work for the common good, a longing to speak up in defense of those who are vulnerable. When these stirrings come, you will feel both excited and afraid. You will think, "Who am I to even dare think about these things, my child?" Remember that I do not call you on the basis of your perfection. I call you to walk in simple obedience. If what I place in your heart does not contradict truth, is not driven by a craving for applause, but flows out of love and compassion, then bring it to me. Pray, ask for confirmation, and then take small, wise steps into it. I will open the doors that are meant to open and close the doors that do not belong to you. What I am waiting for is not a flawless plan, but a willing heart that says, "If you want, please use me in whatever way you see fit." My child, after all is said and done, what I desire most is not that you do many things for me, but that you be with me. Every act of service, every plan, every effort, if it becomes detached from this, will eventually drain you dry. I want our relationship to be the root that nourishes everything you do. When you feel tired, come back to the source. Come to me, not to report results, but to rest. Allow yourself to simply be, to just sit quietly in my presence, not needing to say much, not trying to appear good. It is precisely in those moments that I heal, I realign, I renew, I remind you why you began in the first place. When the root is watered, the branches will grow green again. When your spirit is nourished, your work will once more carry life. So do not be afraid to step into a new chapter of life with me, a chapter no longer controlled by the feeling that you must try hard to be worthy, but guided by the awareness that you are already loved and invited to walk alongside me. Walk each day with small choices. Make room for me in the morning. Pause to remember me in the middle of the day. To be honest with me when you are weak. Listen for me in the quiet care for the people I have placed around you. Guard your heart from what hardens it, and open yourself to those gentle inward callings. Each of these will be like a small stone paving a new road. One day you will look back and realize that you no longer live as someone who merely waits for miracles, but as someone who has become part of a miracle, the miracle of a life gradually being transformed, deeper, freer, more at peace in the right midst of a shaking world. In that day you will understand that I have never left you since the very beginning, and that every word I have spoken to you about my presence, about emptying, about healing, about purpose, has been woven together into a single fabric, the Brahman fabric called a living relationship between me and you. And in that fabric, not a single thread is wasted, not a single day is meaningless, not a single tear is in vain, if you place it all in my hands. My beloved child, as this part of the journey comes to a close, I want to sit very close to you like a father speaking with the child he loves, on the threshold of a new season. This is not the end of our relationship, but the end of an awakening phase. From this moment on, what matters most is no longer how many of my words you have read or how many tears you have shed in moving moments, but how you will live from here. I have not written these words just so you can feel warm on a lonely night and then return to your old patterns in the morning. I am speaking so that each sentence may become a seed quietly sinking deep into your soul, continuing to sprout blossom and bear fruit in the days that look most ordinary. My child, what I long for is not a brief moment in which you are moved. I long for a life that is gradually shaped to the rhythm of my heart. Look back and see how I have led you from recognizing my presence around you to learning to release the things that crowded your heart, then letting me touch your shame, your questions, your wounds, your wandering paths, and finally inviting you into a new way of life where you do not merely survive but live with the awareness that you are loved, guided, and sent. These are not disconnected chapters. They are like concentric circles I have been drawing around your heart, moving from the outside in and then from the inside back out. Now I want to gather it all into one simple but decisive invitation. Will you let me become the true center of your life, or will you still keep me in a beautiful but secondary corner of the room of your existence? I know you have heard many times words like, put God first, love Him above all, seek Him before anything else. They may have become familiar slogans, so familiar that you no longer pause to ask what they mean on a very concrete day. My child, making me the center does not mean abandoning all work, responsibilities, dreams, and relationships, then sitting and reading and praying and waiting for miracles. What I am calling you to is deeper, to let me be the axis and let everything else revolve around that axis, not the other way around. When I am at the center, your first question is no longer, what benefit does this bring me? But does this please you? Does it draw me closer to you or push me farther away? When I am at the center, you no longer build your plans, and only then rush to ask me to sign and bless them. You learn to bring your plans before me from the very first step. When I am at the center, you accept that I have the right to say yes and no now, and not yet go on and stop. And you trust that every answer flows from love, not from moodiness or whim. My child, our relationship will never grow deep if it stays only on the surface of emotion. Emotions are a gift I give when you tremble because you have been touched, when you weep because you realize you are loved, when your heart warms again on nights that seemed utterly cold. All of that is precious. But if you only come to me when you feel strongly, you will leave me behind when the feelings fade. Mature love is not built on waves, but on a steady current. I want to move you from I feel therefore I believe to I believe therefore I keep opening my heart even on days when I feel nothing. Not because I want your love to become dry, but because I want it to go deeper than what your moods can control. One day when you walk a dusty road with a mind in turmoil, feeling anything but spiritual, yet you still whisper, I know you are here, so I choose to walk with you. That will be the moment when your love has reached a level of maturity you had never known before. From now on, you will constantly find yourself standing at very small but recurring crossroads. Either you keep your old habits, or you learn to respond in the new way I have been teaching you. These crossroads are not grand choices that everyone notices. They lie in the tiniest things. You choose to stay silent or to speak with cutting words. You choose to pause and think or to react immediately. Out of instinct, you choose to pray a short prayer or let your anger pull you along. You choose to turn off something that makes your heart heavy or keep letting it flood. Your mind, you choose to open your heart to me about a fear or keep burying it under busyness. Every time you choose the new way, you are saying yes to me, even if you never use that word. Every time you return to the old way, you are pulling yourself away from the stream of peace I have opened for you. I am not standing there with a pen in my hand marking reward and punishment. I stand there with the eyes of a father rejoicing over every small step you dare to take, hurting with you, every time you let your old nature drag you away, and always, always holding out my arms so you can come back. Remember, I am not waiting for you to become perfect before I look at you with delight. I rejoice every time you turn back, every time you become a little more honest, every step where you dare to trust a little more, every moment in which you choose to let go of what you don't understand in order to hold on to me. Every morning you give me a few minutes, I am pleased. Every day you pause in the middle of your busy rhythm to take a deep breath and remind your heart that He is still with me, I am pleased. Every time you choose forgiveness instead of clinging to a grudge, I am pleased. Every time you dare to say I'm sorry when you know you are wrong, I am pleased. Every time you dare to refuse something attractive but unhealthy, I am pleased. Every time you give someone a word of encouragement drawn from the comfort I gave you, I am pleased. Heaven does not only rejoice the first time a person returns to God. Heaven rejoices in every small tremor of a heart that is gradually being bent toward me. My child, you are not only a hearer, you are also a bearer. What I have entrusted to you is not meant to be stored away in a safe cellar like a treasure only you know about. I have soothed you so that you know how to soothe others. I have wiped your tears, so you will cherish the tears of other souls. I have lifted you from very low places, so that you can bend down with compassion instead of standing high and passing judgment. From now on, whenever you meet someone who is sad, exhausted, confused, or lonely, do not think I don't know the right thing to say. You only need to let the love I have placed within you speak. You can say I don't have all the answers, but I know one who did not abandon me, and He will not abandon you either. You can simply place your hand on their shoulder, pray a very short prayer, and I will use that as a fresh stream of water for their soul. You do not need to become a great preacher. You only need to become a vessel through which my comfort can flow. I know that hearing this you may worry, I am so weak. I'm afraid I won't last. I'm afraid I will be on fire for only a few days and then grow cold again. I'm afraid I will fail just like so many times before. I hear every layer of that fear, and I want you to stop. Take a deep breath and listen to me. You have never been called to carry this whole journey on your own small shoulders. I am the one who keeps you, who preserves you, who causes the seed to sprout, who lifts you when you slip. Your role is not to become a perfect firekeeper, but to be someone who lets me tend the flame inside. You cooperate with me through small steps, through openness, through honesty. The rest is the work of my Spirit. He is the one who reminds you when you forget, nudges you. When you doze off, lifts you. When you stumble, soothes you. When you feel hurt, convicts you when you go astray, and embraces you when you run home. Therefore, when you step away from these lines, I do not want you to see this as a period at the end of an experience, but as a rest in the middle of a song. From here on, that song will go on sounding in the mornings, when you wake up in the weary hours of noon, in the evenings, when you are alone in conversations, in decisions, and even in nights when you toss and turn. Let everything you have heard become the ongoing dialogue between you and me. Talk to me about your fears, your joys, your plans, your tiny worries that you think are not worth bringing into prayer. I want to be present in the whole of your life, not just in the spiritual part you set aside. And every time you open your mouth to call on me, even with the softest whisper, I will answer, I am here. Not as an idea, but as one who is walking with you day by day until this earthly journey ends and you see me with your eyes, not just by faith. Child, this is what I invite you into for the rest of your life. Not a religion of rigid rules, not a mere external label, but a living relationship where you are allowed to be weak without being despised, to be real without being rejected to, ask questions without being scolded to fall and still have a place to come home to. If today Even with just the smallest thought you say in your heart, "Yes, I want to live like that with you," then know that I have heard. And from this very moment I will keep doing what I have been doing from the beginning, walking beside you, teaching you, correcting you, comforting you, using you, and loving you until your days are finished and even beyond this life. My child, for a long time now, most of the time, you have been used to letting instinct, fear, wounds, ambition, or the voices around you pull you in many directions. Sometimes you grip the steering wheel tightly, trying to control everything according to your plan, only to end up exhausted when you see how many things lie outside your reach. At other times, you give up, letting the current of life push you wherever it wants. Today, I invite you to a different way of living, to place that steering wheel in my hands, not only in a few special moments, but even in the days that seem dull and ordinary. Handing me the wheel does not mean becoming passive, not thinking, not choosing, just waiting for spectacular signs. Handing me the wheel means that in every decision you accept that my will has the final say. You still think, you still weigh options. You still use the wisdom I give you. But in the end, you know, if you close this door, I will not keep pounding on it. If you open that path, even if I am afraid, I will walk it. You no longer treat your own plans as the highest law. You treat my love and wisdom as your compass. This may sound abstract, but I want to show you how practical it is. Every time you stand before a decision, whether it is choosing a job, holding on to a relationship, using your time, or responding to an invitation, you can pause, breathe slowly, and ask, "Lord, this is what I want, but what do you want?" That question, if asked with a sincere heart, is already a step of handing me the wheel. I know that inside you, there is still a part very afraid of losing control, afraid that if you let me lead, I will take you to places you never want to go, force you to do what you cannot bear. That fear arises from a distorted image of me, an image painted by the world, by dead religion, and by old wounds. Some have used my name to put burdens on you that were never from me. Some have used the language of faith to deny your real pain. Some voices have taught that following God means resigning yourself to a joyless life, faded and colorless, without the right to delight, to dream, to truly be yourself. I want to look straight into that fear and say to you, that is not me. I am not the thief of your life's colors. I am the one who gives them back in deeper, truer, more enduring shades. I do not come to erase the dreams I myself planted in your heart, but to refine them so they are no longer driven by selfishness, pride, or hurt. When you give me the lead, you do not become a pale, anonymous shadow. On the contrary, you begin to discover the truest version of yourself. The world has pinned many labels on you: weak, broken, not good enough, too sensitive, too quiet, too loud, too different. If you let those labels cling for too long, they will cover the sight of who you truly are in my eyes. I see in you things you have not dared to believe about yourself, a kindness that pain has not yet managed to strangle, a sharp intuition for the pain of others, a steadiness forged through long nights, an ability to listen, words that can heal, creativity buried under the dust of insecurity. As you allow me to lead, I will call each of these things to life one by one. I will give you opportunities to use what I have put inside you, not for display but for service. I will place you in situations, sometimes very small ones, where the unique way I have made you is exactly what is needed. But for that to happen, you need to learn a word your heart has long feared: surrender. Surrender is not throwing something away. It is placing it into the hands of someone more trustworthy than yourself. I want you to begin to surrender bit by bit. Look at the things you are still clinging to the most. A relationship you are so afraid of losing that you are losing yourself inside it. A dream you treat as a condition for your existence. A plan you consider the only way your life could ever have meaning. An image you work hard to maintain in others' eyes. a habit you know is destroying you, but you cling to because it gives momentary comfort. Name those things honestly before me. I will not snatch them out of your hand. I will invite you to lay each one on my palm with all your trembling, your incompleteness, your not yet ready heart. The first time you may only be able to say, I cannot fully let go yet, but I want to let go. I receive that too. I work with such tiny desires like a farmer patiently tending a fragile new shoot. I also want you to understand that surrendering to me does not mean you will never hurt again, never be disappointed, never be confused. In a broken world, these things are part of the journey. But when you surrender to me, your pain is no longer directionless. It has somewhere to be lifted to. Your disappointment is no longer a black hole swallowing all hope. It becomes a place where you are reminded that I alone do not change. Your confusion is no longer a maze with no exit. It becomes a setting in which you can step into a new depth of trust. Every time you bring those real emotions to me instead of hiding them or letting them rule you, you are affirming, I choose this relationship over my old ways of coping. My child, I know that in your heart there is not only fear, but also a very strong longing, the longing to live a life that is not wasted. You do not want to reach the end of the road and realize you spent too many years chasing things that never truly fed your soul, fighting for what will fade, striving to prove yourself to people who are no longer even there. That longing echoes something I placed in you from the beginning. You were made for things beyond what your eyes can see, beyond numbers, positions, praise beyond endless comparisons. You were made to know me, to respond to me, to carry my imprint into the place where you live. Every day when you wake above all your plans, there is a very simple yet magnificent invitation. Will you write this day with me? If you respond, even with just a silent nod, that day will never be meaningless because everything done with me, in me and for me, is woven into what is eternal. I am not saying this to you as a comforting slogan. I speak as the one who has seen every single day of your life, from before you were born to your very last breath and beyond. I have seen the days you consider too terrible to ever bring about anything, good days you wish you could erase from your memory, days you are ashamed for anyone to know about. If you place even those days in my hands, I will not deny them, but I will not let them be the final punctuation mark. I will turn them into soil for your compassion, for your patience, for your understanding of grace. You will learn to love others with a love that does not judge because you yourself once needed mercy. You will learn to be patient with those who walk slowly because you yourself once dragged your feet in exhaustion. You will learn to open your heart to those who stumble because you yourself have been lifted up. And in this way, what the enemy intended to use to make you collapse will become a bridge that connects you with countless other souls. Therefore, the invitation I give you today is not a new burden, but a release. Release from having to write your story alone, carry the weight alone, hold everything together alone, figure everything out alone. I invite you into a covenant where your part is to open your heart and respond, and my part is to lead, to protect, to correct, to renew, to uphold. I will never ask you to pay a price that I myself am not willing to pay with you. When I ask you to forgive, I have already borne the weight of betrayal. When I ask you to trust in the dark, I have already stood alone among mockers, watching everything good seem to shatter. When I ask you to hand over your burdens, I have already bent down under the weight of the whole world. I do not speak from a distance. I speak from a heart that has gone through pain, loneliness, misunderstanding, abandonment, and still chose to love to the very end. If today, in the midst of everything you are going through, you can still hear this invitation, it is because I am very near. I am not waiting for you to clean yourself up before I dare to approach. I step right into the mess to clean it up with you. I will help you untangle each knot, wipe each stain, rearrange each broken piece. Some things will take time, some wounds will not heal overnight, Some old patterns will not disappear after just a few resolutions. But if you agree to let me work with you, this journey will no longer be as frightening as you imagine. You will no longer have to sit alone in a dark room trying to fix yourself, perfect yourself, and reach some vague standard. You will move from "I must try hard to be loved" to "I am loved, therefore I can change." This is the greatest difference between burden and freedom. Child, pause for a moment and listen deeply within. There is a very small but very persistent voice echoing. Do you want to not? Are you good enough? Are you worthy? Are you sure? Just, do you want to? Do you want to open your heart so I can step in deeper? Do you want to hand over more of what you have tightly held? Do you want what I have whispered to you, to go beyond emotion and become a way of life? If in your heart there is even the smallest speck of light that answers yes, then tell me with words, with breath, with tears, with a silence full of meaning, I want to. I will receive that whisper as a precious pearl, and from there I will continue to do what I have already been doing, but at a deeper, clearer, more intimate level. I promise you this, if you walk with me, you will never regret letting me hold the wheel. There will be stretches you don't understand, but later you will look back and see my hand in every detail. There will be seasons that feel like delay, but then you will realize I was using that time to lay foundations. There will be things I closed that make you hurt, but then you will see I opened other doors that are wider and deeper. There will be moments when you want to give up, but right then you will feel a strength that is not your own continuing to carry you forward. And above all, you will grow more and more familiar with my voice, my heartbeat, my breath in your life, until you can say, I no longer only heard about you, the eyes of my heart have seen you in the days I have lived. That is what I set before you in this very moment, my child. Not a checklist of tasks, but an invitation into a relationship that is deeper, truer, more whole. The response belongs to you, but remember, you are not answering alone. Even when you say yes, it is my spirit who will help you live out that yes to the full. You only need to open your mouth, open your heart. The rest I will walk with you. My child, as this journey of the words I have spoken to you comes to its close, I want to hold you in a silence full of meaning, and from within that silence, whisper to you these final words for this stage of the road, so that you do not step away feeling far from me, but with a clear awareness that from now on, every step you take can become a continuation of this conversation. What you have just read is not a spiritual collection to be stored in a drawer. It is a living letter sent into the depths of your spirit, so that every time you open your heart, that letter is read again by the breath of your present moment. From today onward, the beauty of your life will not be measured by how many sentences you remember, but by how much you let each thought, each word, each invitation soak into the very cells of your soul, seep into your daily choices, color the way you see yourself, others, and me. My child, I have not waited until you finished listening to these words to be present beside you. I was there before you even chose to enter this conversation, and I will still be there long after you hear the last line. I have never been looking for a brief, moving ritual, and then that's it. I am looking for a heart willing to open the door to me every morning, every busy noon, every evening, full of thoughts, every time you are happy, every time you are sad. The emptiness I invite you into is not a cold abyss, but a freshly cleared room waiting for light and warmth to fill it. I know you still have many questions, many plans, many things you do not yet understand, but I do not require you to solve every problem of your life before entrusting your life to me. What I ask you today is simply this: are you willing from now on to let everything you live be placed under my light, to offer it up as a quiet whisper? Please be present in this, my beloved child. If you dare to say yes, even with the faintest of sounds, I want you to know that heaven has taken note. In the silence where no one else can hear, I have heard your heart. In the room where you are sitting, where nothing seems special, something far greater than you realize has taken place the moment your heart leaned toward me. Not because it was forced, but because it was touched. I do not measure you by the size of your promises, but by the sincerity of the decision within. You may only dare to say, I don't know how faithful I can be, but I want to learn to live closer to you, and I have already smiled. To me, that word is more precious than gold and silver, more valuable than the most lavish offering, because it is a gift from the deepest place of your being, the place I have been waiting for a very long time. From today onward, I invite you into a way of living that is simple yet powerful living, as someone who is walking with me, not as someone who travels alone and only occasionally drops by to visit me. Every morning, when you first open your eyes, train yourself to speak to me before anyone or anything else. Good morning, Lord. Please lead me today. No fancy words needed, only sincerity. When you are about to start a workday, a class, a trip, a meeting, take a brief moment, even a very small one, to place it in my hands. I surrender what is ahead into your hands. Please be in every word I say, in everything I do. When your heart feels heavy, when fear or anger surges up, don't wait until you calm down to pray. Bring the swirling storm straight into the conversation with me. I'm confused, I'm angry, I'm afraid. Please don't leave me. My child, I do not need words that have been polished to sound beautiful. I want the truth you dare to bring to me. Remember, you will stumble, you will forget, you will have days when you do the very opposite of what your heart truly desires, but that does not mean everything is over. I have not signed a contract with you where a single failure erases your name. What I have established with you is a covenant sealed with my love, my mercy, and my unchanging perseverance. When you get lost, I will seek you. When you are weary, I will call you. When you close the door of your heart, I will still knock gently. When you turn away in shame, I will patiently wait to embrace you again. The only thing you need to do each time that happens is to get up and come back, even if it is with a hesitant whisper. Lord, I fell again. I will not push you away. I will not recite a list of your mistakes to condemn you. I will lay my hand on your shoulder, wipe your tears, tend your wounds, teach you what you can learn from it, and then walk on with you. In this way, you will gradually learn that the strength of this journey does not lie in you never being wrong, but in the fact that you always have a place to come home to. I invite you to become the keeper of the hearth in the house of your soul, not by your own strength, but in partnership with my spirit. Every time you make room for stillness, for thanksgiving, for a small act of love, for a quiet sacrifice, you are putting another log into the fire. Every time you let bitterness, resentment, deceit, compromise pull you along, you are allowing cold winds to blow against the flame. But you are not alone in this watchkeeping. My spirit is the one who continually reminds, warns, comforts, and upholds you. He places in your heart those gentle stirrings you have felt so many times, that unease when you step in the wrong direction, that nudge to do what is good, that warmth when you forgive, that sense of freedom when you let go of something that once bound you. From now on, honor those stirrings. Do not shut out that voice just because you are afraid of having to change. Each time you respond, the flame within you flares a little brighter. Each time you refuse, it dies down a little. But as soon as you turn back, I am always ready to breathe new life onto embers that seem to have gone out. My child, from this moment your life can become a channel of blessing to those around you, even when you are not aware of it. You do not need a stage, a title, or a large following. You only need to be present within your small circle of influence, with a heart that stays soft before me. When you remain calm while others are confused, you carry the steadiness I placed in you to them. When you choose gentle words in a tense conversation, You allow the echo of my peace to flow through your lips. When you simply sit beside someone who is hurting without lecturing, without judging, just listening and praying silently in your heart, you are becoming my arm and my shoulder to them. When you tell the story of how I lifted you up, however simple it may sound, you are sowing seeds of hope into another soul. Do not underestimate those seeds. Some will sprout years later in lives you never imagined you touched. I know you also have dreams, plans, and desires for the years ahead. I do not ask you to discard every longing, but I invite you to bring them before me like a child, placing their whole future into their Father's hands. Tell me honestly, this is what I want, this is what I fear, this is what I'm planning. Please examine, reshape, open, or close, as you see best for my soul and for your purpose. When you dare to put as you will after your dreams, you are not losing your future. On the contrary, you are entrusting it to the only one who sees every variable. Some things you desire, I will bring to pass. Some things you demand, I will gently refuse. Some things you never dared to imagine, I will give as unexpected gifts. What I guarantee is this: there is not a single thing I do in your life that will lack love or wisdom. I want you to know this is not a farewell. I am not saying, from now on you're on your own and stepping out of your life. On the contrary, at the very moment you close this scroll of words, your new life and a deeper relationship with me is only just truly beginning. Whenever you feel empty, remember, that is the space I long to fill. Whenever you feel too tired to pray, remember, a single sigh lifted toward me is enough for me to hear. Whenever you feel far from me, remember that distance usually begins in the human heart, while I have never moved away. Whenever you want to give up, remember I will never give up on you. Do not keep these words only as a beautiful memory. Let them become the foundation for concrete decisions. Set aside a small but consistent space in your day for me, morning, evening, or whenever you can, to talk, to read my word, to listen. Learn to call my name in the most ordinary things, while traveling, doing housework, studying, caring for someone you love, facing difficulties. Let me walk with you into every room of your life, your emotions, family, work, finances, future, even the most hidden corners of your mind. Do not guard any area and say, "This part is mine, don't touch it," because every area you keep solely for yourself will eventually become a place that drains you. When you dare to open it, I will not burst in like a storm. I will enter like a gentle breeze, setting things in order, healing and rearranging everything into a better pattern. Finally, my child, engrave this deeply in your heart, like an anchor for the rest of your days. You are loved, not because you do everything right, but because I am love. You are kept, not because you hold on tightly, but because I am the one who never lets go. You have a future, not because everything on this earth is secure, but because I am the one who holds tomorrow. When you forget everything else, remember these three truths. Each time you say, "I don't know how things will turn out," add, "but you know." Each time you think I'm not enough, add, "but you are enough." Each time you feel I'm too weak, whisper, "But your strength is made perfect in my weakness." These small responses will keep your heart from being completely swept away by the darkness of fear. I will be with you until your very last day on earth and beyond. When people change, I remain the same. When circumstances shift, I remain the one who does not change like shifting shadows. When everything you rely on falls away, I will still be there as an anchor, a shelter, an open embrace. Live, love, walk, stumble, and rise again in the awareness that not for a single moment do you step outside of my sight. My child, thank you for sitting down and listening. From now on, let the rest of your life become the most living answer to what I have spoken, an answer not only on your lips but written through each day, each choice, each heartbeat. And in the midst of all that changes, whenever you whisper, you will always hear this answer: in return, your Father is here with you. Thank you for listening to today's message. Please subscribe and turn on the notification bell so we can continue to receive His living words together, build a steadfast faith, and walk daily in the boundless love of God. Amen.